Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Ayo me fele sama,
Me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
isa me fele sama,
me fele sama,
ay mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
brother me fele sama,
me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama.
mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Ayo me fele sama,
Me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
isa me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
me fele sama.
me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama. Ayo.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama,
Ayo me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
isa me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
isa me fele sama.
me fele sama.
Fire burn them dirty king, blaze up them dirty king, fire burn them king, send him disastrous, and time he fast with us, ancestors walk with us, fire burn them king.
Tendai Mwadi, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Kudzai Mudzimu Mukuru, give praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people on the face of Mother Earth. Greetings and welcome, family. We are here for part 2 of our session. France must go. Uprisings in West Africa, more properly referred to and entitled France Figue, Uprisings in West Africa. Yes, indeed, kings and queens, we're here. And, I want to say this is the last day of the observance of Black History Month. And so we want to honor our elder, Baba Achiaba Adayesebo, who is currently actually in the country. And I saw him not weekend gone, but the weekend before. Had the pleasure of seeing him at a conference. And so we want to give thanks for him and his work in terms of instilling this observance for our people and our children in particular. And we also would like to inform you that as this is part 2, part 1 is available to watch on our channel. All right. Sorry. Tendai. Apologies for that, family. Okay. Where was I? Yes. So y'all, we need to
Part 2 is available.
Yes, part 1. part 1.
Part 1
is available to watch. Thank you very much, Kushti. Part 1 is available to watch right about now. So do check that out, because the voice that you just heard, Empress Kushti, delivered a presentation breaking down some basic information that we need to know that for our conversation this evening, kings and queens. And with that, let me introduce my co-host for this evening's proceedings. Goes by the name of Empress Kushti. How you doing, Empress Kushti?
I'm blessed, bro. Thank you. Looking forward to the panel.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And thank you once again for preparing us for our conversation today. It's going to be a beautiful and powerful one. There are many, many things going on in the world, kings and queens. And we're planning some good shows for the coming month. And yeah, there's so many issues. Yeah, obviously, we've already done a breakdown from a Pan-African perspective of Palestine and Israel. And there's more to be said on that from a Pan-African perspective. Yeah. In the coming weeks. We also want to address issues with Congo, and we're probably likely to do a show focusing on a nation that we often don't focus on, which is Togo, yes, which is in West Africa. And so we're probably going to have 2 guests on in relation to that in the month of November as well, because there is resistance to neocolonialism all over the African world. And so it's necessary as a Pan-African media platform that we make time to profile those voices. All right, kings and queens. So as you come through, we want to make sure, you like up the video. Please hit like on the video. Make sure you hit like on the video. And once you've hit like on the video, share the link far and wide. Share the link far. Let the people them know that Shakara is live with Empress Kushti right now. And I have one of the most powerful Pan-African panels that you are ever going to come across this side of this dimension of reality, kings and queens. And I'm going to introduce our panel now. First and foremost, we're going to go to Liberia by way of Canada and introduce our good brother Sekou. Brother Sekou Kele. Greetings, my brother Sekou. How are you? You're on mute, my brother.
Peace and blessing, Shakara. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be in the House of Revolution, man.
Yes,
and
sir.
I'm really glad to see you. I'm happy to, greetings to all those who are listening. My revolutionary greetings to all of you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for being here, my brother. I know you've been working hard, and we haven't seen you on these internet streets for a while, but we know you're not an idle man, so we give thanks. Yeah, we give thanks for your presence here at this moment, at this time. Now we are going to go to Nigeria. Yeah, by way of nowhere but Nigeria, and greet one of my favorite people in the world, a woman who has contributed immensely to who I am as a Pan-Africanist in this day and age, kings and queens. You know, a woman who is an international organizer and a valuable leader within our global Pan-African community. I want to say greetings to Auntie Affion. Greetings, Auntie Affion.
Greetings, Sakara.
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. Good. Yes, we got you good. We've got you good.
Okay, so hopefully, yeah. And thank you, you know, for facilitating this session.
Thank you very much, Auntie. My pleasure, my pleasure. And I will say that of all the people that I know can provide an important analysis, you are among the most, you know, considered voices. Yeah, so I give thanks for your presence here and for you accepting the invitation. I am just awaiting the arrival of Brother Leader Bandaka. And so once he's situated, we will bring him through. Yeah, let's process the thing right about now as it stands right now, and we'll get to hear everybody shortly. Empress Kushti, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, just making sure that everybody's in good voice. And so so from my panel, the co-host for this evening's proceedings will be our sister Empress Kushti, who's also off camera along with Auntie Affion. Okay, so just so you know that I'll be handing over to her at some point during the discussion. Yeah, now I would like to begin. Oh, sorry. But Brother Sekou, Sister Affion, Sister Kushti is just greeting you both.
Oh, hope you're well.
I'm well, thank you. Looking forward to hearing the good knowledge that's coming up.
And greetings to my brother Sekou in Liberia.
Yeah, peace and blessing to all of you. I'm happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
All right. Family, as I've said to you before, we are going to be hosting follow-up conversations on this particular topic, and we will be featuring voices from Guinea, from Mali, from Burkina Faso, and from Niger, yeah, as well as Gabon and so on. And as we already said, we're actually in the process of arranging a session on Togo. But today we're looking at a Pan-African perspective, and a Pan-African perspective means that we don't just exclusively require voices from the respective nations, especially because the borders are, you know, arbitrary and colonial. And so Pan-Africanists are capable of providing analysis on these issues from a broad perspective, and that's what we're looking at and for today. And so let us begin, by providing our guest providing just a brief overview of your general viewpoint on the current situation, particularly as it relates to Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, and Gabon, if you wish to include Gabon also. Yeah, so we're going to get into the details as we go through the show, but initially what I'm asking for is just your initial, like, basic overview assessment of the situation, so that our listeners can get an idea of where you stand. Broadly speaking, I'll begin in order of seniority with Auntie Affion. Auntie Affion, you're on mute if you're speaking.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I said I missed, you know, a bit of that of your question. I just got the end, so I wonder if you could repeat it.
No problem. So what I'm asking for, we're going to get into the details of your analysis shortly, but I'm asking for each of our guests to provide some a brief overview of your position and your perspective on the current coups as it stands right about now. And let's say, to give more perspective, to what extent do you consider the possibility of revolutionary activity or outcomes versus more neocolonialism? So basic overview to begin with, and then we're going to get into the details as you ask more specific questions.
Oh, okay. Clearly, the coups, quote unquote, are not revolutionary, you know, at this time. they are more of rebellions, against the status quo, so to speak. So it's a bit of a temporary type of thing, and they're not necessarily things that have been organized intentionally with the masses' interest, It's just people are fed up, and so like I said, yes, so it's more of a rebellion type of thing. And the soldiers actually have their training in the West, and I think all of them are American trained. And obviously there's some deeper issues, but the situation is so bad, that it's like you thank God for small mercies, because at least the little consciousness is coming through that France is an enemy force, and so if for nothing else, one has to appreciate that, so yeah, so that's where we're at. So it's definitely a bit of a step forward, but we're not yet Uhuru, so to speak.
Not yet Uhuru, not yet free family. All right, give thanks for that, Auntie Affiong. With that, let me bring forward our third guest, who is most definitely in the building. And I will say greetings to Brother Leader Bandaka. Greetings. You're on mute, Brother Leader. This is, I'm sure you're on mute is the most repeated saying on the internet for the last 5 years. You're on mute. Go ahead, Brother Leader.
Here we go. Is that better?
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay, Tendai Mwari, greetings, Brother Shakara, greetings to Sister Affiong, and my brother, I need to learn your name. I can see you. Brother
Sekou.
Brother Sekou. Brother Sekou. Greetings to you all, and greetings to our beloved and treasured listeners, as always, in the most precious, powerful, and bountiful name of our motherland, Al-Kebula and Mama Africa, in the sacred spirits of our most gracious ancestors, and in a prayer for oneness, hope, and prosperity for all African people on the face of Mother Earth. Rumbidzo kunamwari Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. Kudzai mukuro. We give praises unto our ancestors. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari, Brother Leader. Let me also introduce you to my co-host for this evening. She's currently off screen, but she's definitely here. And introduce you to Empress Kush, or Empress Kush D.
Yeah.
Greetings.
Greetings, Empress Kush. Kush D, you said?
Kush D.
Yeah.
Kush T.
Yeah.
Greetings, my beloved sister.
Greetings. The pleasure to be on the panel with you. Looking forward to the show.
Oh, the honor is mine. The honor is mine. I wish I could see you, and I wish I could see Sister Affiong.
Yeah, so I believe Auntie Affiong is off camera so as to facilitate the bandwidth.
Okay.
Because turning on the camera will eat up more of the, so it may cut out her her internet, right? So yeah, but this is not an exercise in holding down the sisters, brothers and sisters. Yeah, I just noticed that all the men them are visible.
Can I just ask? Is my picture visible?
No, unfortunately, but StreamYard has updated this thing whereby when your camera is not on, we can only hear your voice. Now I'm at the moment literally right now trying to see if I can change that, because there may be a setting that I can change where that is concerned. So I'm trying to see
because my photograph is on the avatar, so to speak.
No, I can see it.
And that's how I came to the studio. But anyway, I just wanted to know, because I know that it's an issue for people. But yes.
No, yeah, I can definitely see your avatar backstage,
but you can't bring it to the studio.
Yeah, the viewers can't see it at the moment.
That's fine.
So I'm trying to change
I was just checking if I was successful.
No, yeah, you were successful. You were successful. Okay. All right. Brother Leader, just to catch you up. And I said we were going in order of seniority. So I believe you will come next in the batting order, so to speak. And we're asking for our guests to give a broad overview. We're not going to get into the details immediately, but just give a broad overview of your perspective on the recent developments in West Africa regarding the coups and the extent to which you see them as an exercise in forwarding a revolutionary Pan-African agenda or not. Auntie Afyong has just begun, and her perspective is simply that she doesn't necessarily consider it revolutionary at this stage, but they are acts of rebellion. Yes. And she raised a number of initial issues regarding who trained the militaries and so on and so forth. Yeah. And we're going to get into the details of this as we go forward. But for now, just give our listeners and the viewers your initial, just broad perspective.
Yeah, Tendai Mwari, I find myself agreeing almost entirely with what my dear sister Afyong has said, the brief overview that she has given. I always take my cue from the masses of the people, and it is clear to me that I am sensing the spirit of what Baba Chedi Shemsi Jehuti, otherwise known as Jacob Carruthers in the book Irritated Genie, talks about the irritated genie, the unrested revolutionary spirit of our ancestors. And I sense that in the masses of the people who are fed up of the oppression, the exploitation and degradation that they have suffered primarily at the hands of the French in so-called Francophone Africa, but broadly from the forces of European imperialism, Euro-American imperialism, to be more exact, and global white supremacy. The interventions of the armies, I am not as convinced. I am not as imbued with confidence as other Pan-Africanists are, who seem to be sure that these coups represent revolutions. I am not sharing that particular view. I do believe the potential is there, as Sister Afyong has indicated, for this to mushroom into more of a revolutionary uprising, more of a revolutionary explosion. I believe the potential is there, but I think it's far, far more complex than that. I will leave it there for now and give, as you say later on, a more in-depth analysis. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari. Brother Sekou, go ahead.
Yes, peace and blessing. I agree entirely, with my sister and then brother Mbandaka. Like I always say, there are several factors that affect these post-colonial African states. And what we call now neocolonialism is one factor. And that factor is what everybody is looking at. And also there are other factors, which I've always mentioned. But when you look at this coup, it's not the first time we have coup in Africa. In the 80s, there was what they used to call the Africa of generals, where almost all African states have generals ruling. They took over. But most of these generals, they end up, except for few, except for exception like Kwame Nkrumah, Kwame Nkrumah, for the exception of Thomas Sankara and maybe Jerry Rawlings, the rest of them, like Nigeria, all the generals that came, none of them were Pan-African oriented. So we begin to say the institutions that produce these people is what really matter. What institution produced them? What ideological training did they have? What is their political consciousness? That's how you judge, because Nkrumah was not by accident. He was trained. There were institutions, there were people that influenced him to arrive at that point. So when we look at these coups, then we look at it and say, who trained these guys? What institution produced them? What is their ideological leaning? Then we find out that these guys were just products of the status quo. And they only, they seems to be guys who were like, our masters are eating and we don't have much. Let's take over and eat as well. So they hijack the real revolution that is ongoing. That's been my position all the time. However, the internet revolution, the internet has brought a new revolution in Africa where information travels faster than it was in the 90s and in the 80s. Information travels faster now. The issue of France is now known in the villages than it was in the 90s. What is happening? The African people, the young people on the internet are speaking out than they used to do in the 80s and the 90s. So these soldiers find themselves in a position where the people are like, we are watching you. And this is the revolution that we want. If you don't do it, we will come after you. So this is the difference between the 80s coup and the present coup. Now the people know what is going on.
Thank you very much for that, brother Sekou. And as you can see, brothers and sisters, I've managed to get the avatars of our sisters up on the screen, so you know that they're here, and you can feel their presence as well as see, you know, what they have chosen to display as their pictures. Okay, all right. So we've got that basic overview. I'm going to ask one question, and I'm going to hand it over to Sister Kushti, if she wants to ask a question at this stage. Yeah. Now we know, in my humble estimation. By the way, before coming here today, I knew what Brother Leader's position was. I knew what Brother Sekou's position was. I had not heard Auntie Afion's position, yeah? And quite frankly, I don't need to hear Auntie Afion's position, because I know that whatever she's going to say is going to be something that I'm going to need to listen to, right? So that's what it is right about now. And in the case of you all as viewers, yeah, agreement and disagreement is fine. But I guarantee you that our guests today are going to provide perspectives that we all need to consider. Yeah, at the very least. Yeah, and so that's why this set of guests has been chosen. Okay, and so I said that to say I was cautiously, an emphasis on cautiously optimistic. Yeah, when many of these coups began to happen, partly because it seemed to me that the military seemed to have a significant amount of support from the people in Mali. And then more recently, there was some talk at the end of last year about Burkina Faso and Mali being in some kind of conversation about forming one state between them. And then the issue of the pending ECOWAS as led by Nigeria invasion, and the fact that Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, decided that basically if anybody attacks Niger, that all three of them, it will be considered an attack against all three of them, And so these are talks, that I have not heard, for a significant amount of time, and so it pricked my ear slightly. Then I heard Brother Sekou break it down, and I had a long conversation with Brother Leader, and my caution increased and my optimism decreased, right? You know what I'm saying? In that respect. However, when we look at these dynamics, and as Empress Kushti broke it down for us last week, and she had some areas of more optimism for some than others, and so I want to ask our guests: is between the four nations, do you see more room for optimism from a revolutionary Pan-African perspective as versus others, or do you see them generally on the same trajectory? Anybody can go first.
Who's going first?
Go ahead, Afion. You're at liberty too.
Oh, okay. Gabon is certainly not on the list in terms of, a progressive course. Burkina Faso and Mali, definitely, there's a lot of prospects there. Right. But yes, so it's just, so that's what it is. And, in politics or in resistance or in, the road to revolution, we're grateful for every step forward, although, of course, a step forward in the wrong direction can also take us back. Backward. But the most important thing is, how it impacts on the consciousness of the people, and how we're able to develop that. So, so that extent, they're all on that level, except, Gabon.
Okay. All right. Yeah. You're fine. Robert Sekou, you want to add anything here?
Yeah, one of the best things is when you are in the midst of Pan-Africanists, it's like they are reading your mind. When Sister Afion speaks, It's like she downloaded from my mind. So that tells you we come from the same school of thought. So that makes the conversation, very, very easy. Definitely Gabon is off the list because it's a palace coup. Is the Bongo continuity of that entire cabal. But as I always say, I am not an optimist when it comes to the issues of Africa. And I'm not a pessimist either. I have learned over the years to become a realist. Because when I used to be an optimist, anything happened, I'm like, oh, something's about to change. We've seen that. And then at the end of the day, things go back to status quo. I can't be a pessimist because I always hope for the survival of my people, and I always look forward to the future. But I decide to be a realist, to look at the data, to look at the reality, and to be able to predict what is coming. Mali, like the sister Afiam said, there's hope in that Sahel area because sometimes necessity is the mother of invention, because they are faced with Islamic jihad, which is now threatening their very existence. And the neo-colonial underneath that, they are facing a lot of hardship right now, economically and what have you. So this will force them to see and say that unity can be very, very important to our survival. So perhaps it will ignite the Pan-African fire in them to be able. And then Guinea, take Guinea off the table too, because the guy in Guinea is not a Pan-Africanist, neither by training or by ideology. He is not. He is not. So you have to look at just Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. So perhaps something might happen between these people. But there is, as I speak to you, there's a lot of pressure on them, a lot of pressure. If they don't make haste and these guys hand over to so-called democratic elected leaders, that's the end of that dream.
Understood, my brother. Brother leader, if you have anything to add, feel free to add it now to this question.
Yeah, Tenai Mwari, Ditto Gabon. And by the way, the present person who is in charge of the levers of power is a cousin of the Bongos, Omar Bongo and Ali Bongo.
You know, brother leader, sorry, because we didn't get into Gabon that much last week, yeah. So I'm going to ask you briefly, because I know you can do this succinctly. Just give the viewers a brief overview of the Gabon situation in terms of its recent history, and that will give us an understanding of why we're saying Gabon is off the table, basically.
Well, Tendai Mwari, because Gabon has been the presidency of Gabon has been in the hands of one family who has been in the pocket of the French government. In fact, the father of Ali Bongo, who was supposedly toppled recently, was handpicked by the French government. He was the vice president when Gabon got its so-called independence, its fake independence in 1960. And he was handpicked when the previous president was ill. He was handpicked and the constitution was altered so that he could step up to the position of president. And when there were attempted coups, he was protected by the French. And then when he died, I think it was in 2009 that Omar Bongo died after 42 years, protected by the French to maintain the position and protect French interests and promote French interests in Gabon. Then his son took over the position. Now the levers of power are in the hands of a cousin of the Bongo family, who was the head of the presidential guard, handpicked by his elder cousin Omar Bongo, and handpicked to protect French interests. So as the head of the presidential guard, he has been protecting French interests. He's been trained to protect French interests, and there is no evidence that he's going to do otherwise. I'm also, if I was to pick one that sparks some degree of hope, it would be Burkina Faso. Not necessarily because of anything that I've heard about Traore, Ibrahim Traore, who is now in the seat of the presidency, that gives me any reassurance in terms of his background. I don't know that he has any revolutionary background. I've not seen any evidence of that. What he says, or what he has said since the coup, sounds very impressive. But I'm also aware that the person who was selected as prime minister is someone who has revolutionary credentials, someone who is known to be a Sankarist, so to speak, has always been a defender of the name and the legacy of Thomas Sankara. He is a lawyer, amongst other things, and his name, I've got his name here. I'm not very familiar with him, but the little I know about him, that he has that that background that gives me some sense of hope. I also heard the speech from the foreign minister of the new foreign minister of Burkina Faso to the United Nations a month or so ago, which was very, very impressive. Oratorically, or rhetorically, it was a very revolutionary speech, in your face revolutionary speech. That gave me some sense of hope, not least because he sounded authentic. That's the most I can say. Beyond that, I am not giving a great deal of traction to any of the others. To be frank, I totally agree with Brother Sekou. I'm crossing out Guinea as well, because I don't understand how what's his name, Doumbouya, was a French legionnaire, which means that he has sworn allegiance to the French government. He served in the French legionnaires for some 15 years. That he came back to Guinea in 2018, at a time when Condé, the Guinean president, was at odds with the French because he had engaged in some economic transactions with the Chinese that upset the French. And Doumbouya, after some training, specialist training by the Americans in Burkina Faso, alongside Goita, who is from Mali, who is his personal friend, I'm made to understand. He, Goita, and Traore have had training from the American government in 2018, as a specialist training from the American government in 2018, and apparently know each other very well. That concerns me a great deal. And also, I'm aware that the head of Africa, whose name slips me at the moment, I don't know why it's escaped.
General Michael Langley.
General Michael Langley was grilled in Congress a couple of months back about the coups in Mali and Burkina Faso in particular. And Matt Gaetz, the representative who was grilling him, raised the issue about these men being trained by the American government, by the American army, and these men having American money invested in them. And a picture was, you also put up a picture of Doumbouya posing in front of the French American military base with American officers, Also, we are aware that the Green Beret of the Pentagon were in Guinea training the very soldiers who were involved in the coup d'etat that happened whilst they were being trained by the U.S. Green Beret from the Pentagon. You put all those things together, you know, and let me just say very quickly also, his wife is a French legionnaire, senior military police officer, still is a senior military police officer, sworn allegiance to France. I can't see if you can't get rid of this French agent, government agent out of your bedroom. I don't see how you would even have the will to get rid of the French out of your country. That seems a contradiction to me.
In fact, if you were here last week, brothers and sisters, you would have heard some of those facts alluded to by Empress Kushti, particularly the training that took place in Burkina Faso. She mentioned, and we watched the video of Michael Langley as well last week. So you will have seen that last week, brothers and sisters. If we have time, we may play it a little bit later on for those who want to see that. But yeah, it is a very interesting watch. Empress Kushti, do you have a question at this point?
Yes. I might as well put both my hands up now and say that I might be the resident optimist here, even though I might be the lonely voice. So that might be understood as some of my questioning. So when Auntie Afong said that it was more of a rebellion than a revolution, I think that kind of got echoed with the rest of the panelists. But I did notice that the jury's still out, I think, for Burkina Faso and Mali, if I understood correctly. So what would, in particular, Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, what would be something they would have to do to be a signifier that this would be looking towards a revolution to yourselves?
Interesting question.
Let me take up the initiative here because I've gone last the first two questions. Yeah, I think time is the master here, my dear sister. Time has to be the master here. And I wouldn't want to dampen your enthusiasm or your optimism in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I'm hoping that your optimism is well placed, because that would be in all our interests. Yeah. However, we have to do a systems analysis. We have to ask ourselves, who are these people who have waged these coups? Why have they waged the coups? None of these coups were waged as a result of a will to defend the interest of the masses of the people, or to bring justice to the masses of the people. All of these coups were waged as a result of conflict, whether within the military or conflict between the military and the civilian government, where in the case of Goita, for example, the person that he had handpicked to as the figurehead, the civilian figurehead, because he had to present a civilian face to the system of government for it to be accepted by ECOWAS. And so he selected this person, Ndao, to be the president, and he was serving as vice president. And then there was a conflict where Ndao had a cabinet meeting where he did not include Goita and made some decisions where he sacked some of Goita's close friends and associates and made some decisions independently of him, and then Goita overthrew him. That to me suggests that he's motivated by personal interest. Yeah, whatever else might be going on, that particular coup was motivated by personal interest. Yeah. Then you have Chiani of Niger, who again there was the issue of the jihad's the jihad in Niger and the prolonged deteriorating trend that it was assuming, even though the French was present and was throwing resources at the problem was getting worse rather than getting better, and soldiers were dying, their lives were on the line, and also he had conflict with Bazoum, the president. Bazoum was on the verge of replacing him, and just remember, Chiani was chosen by Bazoum's predecessor, who had handpicked him as a loyal servant, and both of them were loyal servants of France. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when his position was threatened, that was when he made the move. But also pressure was being put on the government and on the heads of the army because of the situation with the jihadists and the lives of soldiers that was being lost, and even lives of soldiers, family members who were being lost. So I think time has to be the master here, I would suggest, my dear sister. We have to see what unfolds. Yeah?
I give thanks for that, Brother Lisa.
Auntie Affion, you have anything to add to that question? Sister Kushti wants to know what could Niger and Burkina Faso in particular do to be more revolutionary in your consideration at this moment in time? You're still on mute, Auntie, if you're speaking.
I didn't hear the specific. I didn't hear the specific question about Burkina Faso. Is Burkina Faso what, more revolutionary? Is that what you said?
No. Repeat the question, Kushti.
I asked Auntie, what in particular could Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso do that would signify signify of more of a revolution to yourself? Because I know that you said that currently it seems as a rebellion. So what steps could they take for it to signify a revolution?
Well, first of all, we have to deal with what is, before we say what could they do, to examine, the forces much, closer, because politics is not about utopia, although theoretically it's supposed to be, what we wish, but it's about a balance of forces. So then the question is, who are the forces and what is the balance? So that's the first thing. The other thing is for us to always look behind the veil, so to speak. And I was just thinking, now, and I mean, I've been, also thinking about that. We have to examine the role of the United States behind the curtain. The US has unleashed a master stroke against France because all those places were French territory. And the US, has effectively shifted them out. There's a saying that campaigns are run in poetry, but government is done in prose. And of course, the difference between poetry and prose is that poetry is very pleasant, nice sounding, and all of that. And prose appears to be more difficult, monotonous, more rigid, and stuff like that. So the US has actually unleashed a master stroke. In terms of realigning itself as the most powerful Western nation in those countries, effectively, shifting, France out. So what on the front line looks like, and to call it a revolution is really just, us daydreaming and hoping and projecting our hopes onto, reality. There's a lot of politics, behind the scene, and you see, it's not even the issues that brought to these coups are not even disagreements between the neo-colonial elites. Of course, there is that, but I'm saying that the prodding comes from a different place, and then it's about who is best to serve the master. Now, so then to the question that, what would make it different? if it was a mass, uprising that then manifested, as a coup, and if it was as a result of the people's consciousness, then that would tell us that, okay, this is the agenda and that is the trajectory, that's where they're wanting to go forward. But the question is, who are the forces that brought about, this coup? And so those are the things that we need to examine, and that's why we say these things. Now, in terms of Burkina Faso, it's because of the history of Burkina Faso and effectively the history and the legacy of Thomas Sankara that even makes, Burkina Faso a bit ahead, so to speak, because they have a lot to live up to, so to speak. So you find that America's hand is there, but the rhetorics, are what they are. And because things are so bad, in any African country or in most African countries, if there is a coup anywhere, a lot of us are going to be on the streets because the situation is so bad. But, the question then is, how long will, that celebration last? Because it's really a superficial celebration, but it's just like when you're drowning and you're able to come up for air for 1 minute. That 1 minute that you're able to come up for air when you're drowning is like an hour, And so, there's no guarantee that you won't go back again and really effectively drown. But you're just grateful for this 1 minute. Now, we need to have serious analysis like this so that we don't suffer from self-inflicted illusion or illusion that is inflicted on us by the propagandists and by the original puppet masters, playing behind the scene. We need to be able to look beyond things, to see which forces are really at play. Because it is in understanding the nature of the forces at play that we then understand the nature of the coup, the kind of coup that have taken place. And not for us to be what's the word I'm looking for? We react as people. The mass reacts in a lot of times with naivety, a lot of naivety and romanticism, so to speak, because that's how we hope. But it's not the people that have organized that coup, and you cannot inflict your own nostalgia or romanticism on a concrete situation. If you look at the coup in Ghana in '66, the people were out on the streets rejoicing. But look at the forces behind the coup. So that's the point being made. So we're not condemned. We're just saying we're even grateful that we appear to be moving a teeny-weeny inch forward in terms of, shifting France out. Because if you know anything about the French, they're the most arrogant and cantankerous people, you will come across. Extremely arrogant and cantankerous. And so even getting them out, giving them that reality check is something. But, as Pan-Africanist forces, we need to be, a bit more conscious and, of course, to organize, because these coups are happening because there's a vacuum. Real, genuine revolutionary forces are nowhere to be found. So it's a balance of forces. When the coups happened, and because I'm not just I'm Pan-Africanist and I'm socialist. A lot of people on the left, are quick to criticize. It's a reactionary coup. Is this and that? Well, excuse me. If you are not prepared to, organize revolution, some other forces will occupy that space. So that's what we have, and that's where we're at. So then the challenge is, how we push it forward to the next level. Let me leave it there for now.
Thank you, Auntie Afio. Much appreciated. Brother Sekou, if you have anything to add, feel free.
Yeah. It's like I'm in class. I'm just listening and I'm taking notes, So I don't know what I need to add when Sister Avion speaks and Brother Mandaka speaks. I don't know what to add, But I will just try to buttress some of the things they've said already. You can take. The sister said, what can they do for us to be able to say, now this is revolutionary? Well, when ECOWAS was created in the 1970s, One of the scholars that inspired me, that I always consider like an idol, Sheikh Anta Diop, he was interviewed and said, what do you think of an ECOWAS? It's Pan-African, it's going to bring country together economically, Africans will be together. Diop said, on record, he said, this is a cat before the horse.
Yes, he did.
Put the cat before the horse. You can find it in his book.
Black Africa. Black Africa.
Black Africa, for economic, cultural and economic basis for a federated state. At the end of the book, you see that interview there with Callum Murray. So he said, it's a cat before the horse, because you want to bring people together into an economic community. But there are political forces that is not willing to unite these people. That's what the sister was talking about, the balance of the forces. These forces are, some of them are pro-European, some of them are pro-Chinese. There's the African forces are not even represented there. Then you bring them into an economic community to do what? To strive for what kind of economy? He said it's going to fail, and it did fail. And it did fail woefully. Today, ECOWAS is like a dog, I don't know how to call it, a lion without teeth or claws. It's just lying down there doing nothing. They can't even create a common currency. A little France come and just play over them. That's what happened when the cat is before the horse. Now, these guys that are wearing uniform, they are listening to the internet. They're seeing the people are angry. Because let me tell you, soldiers do not wake up to do coup d'etat, except they read the sentiment. They understand that the street, what the people are thinking. When they see that the so-called democratically elected leaders are no longer popular, the people are no longer happy, then they use that opportunity to kick them out. But now they have to speak revolutionary language that the people want to hear. So for us to consider the revolutionary, we need the action. I remember when this coup happened very early, I did a video and I called them pseudo Pan-Africanists. And Shakara said, that's too extreme. That was too. He said, well, I won't call them that. I said, yeah, I call them pseudo Pan-Africanists because you cannot be Pan-African, a born-again Pan-Africanist like Gaddafi. Circumstantial Pan-Africanism, because you went to the European, they didn't receive you, then you became Pan-African. Goita, you chased the French when the French ambassador started speaking against, started calling you juntas. How they call him? Bazoum. Bazoum is because the French wanted to install Bazoum, and the guy in Niger saw that the French were pro-Bazoum, then he became anti-French. It wasn't an ideological issue that they have with France. It is because France was threatening their power. That's where I have problem with them. Now, when they say when you touch Niger, you touch Mali, you touch Burkina Faso, it sounds revolutionary. Okay, don't do it because France is threatening them. Now, can you go further and say, for the sake of our people, we, the people of the Sahel, will put pen on paper and remove our border and have one president and create economy, create one capital, build street and railway for the economic development of our people. Not because France is threatening us, but this is what we project for our people. Then you say this is the revolutionary thinking. But it's not when you are threatening a Laurent Gbagbo type of revolution. Laurent Gbagbo did the same thing. He became Pan-African overnight when Nicolas Sarkozy gave him an ultimatum that he would be removed from power in 2011. Laurent Gbagbo of Ivory Coast. Then he became Pan-African. L'ennemi de l'Afrique, c'est la France. L'ennemi de l'Afrique, c'est la France. But when you go back few years, this is the man who paid money for the presidential campaign. He sponsored the entire presidential campaign of Jacques Chirac. But you became Pan-African a few days later because you were threatened by France. So these people are using Pan-Africanism, but they are not Pan-African. That's why I use the word pseudo-Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism will not just be reactionary. You have to be proactive. You have to plan ahead. So I'm looking for Goita. I'm looking for Keita. I'm looking for this man beyond the war that you guys tried to defend yourself against ECOWAS. What is the plan now? What is the charter you guys have signed that is revolutionary? What is the unity that we are seeing? What collapse the border and create a new constitution to have one president in the Sahel? And let us see the street and the railway. Let us see the economic plan for the people, But very soon, you will hand over to so-called democratic elected leaders. You already giving a timetable for elections. They're giving a timetable, all of them. They're giving a timetable for election. To elect who? To elect the pro-French and the pro-American. Okay, they are anti-French, but Americans have their biggest drone base in Niger. Silently, Americans are not touched. So I will just tell you what they need to do is to put the horse in front and put the cat behind. Let's see the actions. Let's see the plan. Let's see the program. I don't want speeches. I don't listen to their UN speeches anymore. I'm tired of, if I want to listen to speeches, I will play Kwame Nkrumah YouTube videos. I'm done with speeches. So thank you.
Give thanks, brother Sekou. We're gonna go back to Sister Kushli. She got our next questions shortly. Let me just do some housekeeping quickly, brothers and sisters. You are tuned into France Must Go, or as we say in Patois, France for Gwe, Uprisings in West Africa. And our panel is filled with Pan-African excellence of the highest order in the form of Brother Leader Mbandaka, Auntie Affiong El Affiong, and Brother Sekou Kele, yeah. And it is necessary for us to take in, yeah, the words that our aunties, uncles, and brothers and sisters are speaking, so as to form a proper analysis. My co-host is Sister Kushti, who delivered a beautiful presentation last week, just giving us some foundational information that we need to know to be able to delve into deeper analysis that we're doing today. For those who are watching, you will be given the opportunity to come live and interact with our guests shortly. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, between time, feel free to ask any questions that you have in the chat. Utilize the chat feature, and if you want your question and or comment read out, please at gotkushTV. Okay, so if you don't at gotkushTV, because a lot of conversation takes place in the chat, I'm only going to read comments that at gotkushTV. All right, so I will notice them, log them, and read them out. So please, yeah, be sure if you want your comment or your question read for our guests to consider to at gotkushTV. All right, and we look forward to hearing from you shortly. Brother Sekou put me on blast a minute ago and said that I said this too extreme to call them pseudo Pan-Africanists. Yeah, what I said to Brother Sekou is that I was not ready, yeah, to call them pseudo Pan-Africanists. Or that at that point, I was not calling them Pan-Africanists, yeah, necessarily. But I was just waiting to see what was going to happen. And Brother Sekou was already, ready to make a declaration. And I openly admit today that the more I have studied and the more I have researched on this issue and the more I have spoken to brothers and sisters, I am far more closer to Brother Sekou's position then, yeah, now than I was at that time, if that makes sense, yeah. My only caution was when, like I said at the beginning of the show, some of the things that they were saying and looking like they were going to do were things that I had not heard for a long time, and so it led me to say, you know what, let me see what's going to happen here, yeah, before I endorse or condemn at any point. And you know, and when it comes to being a Pan-Africanist, there's a heavy dose of skepticism because of our recent political history is, generally speaking, necessary. Do you know what I'm saying? But when we hear things that we haven't heard for a long time, it sometimes, you know, puts us beyond the pale of in the form of optimism. And with that, I'm gonna hand back over to our self-confessed optimist for a follow-up question if she so has one. Go ahead, Sister Kushti.
Laughing really hard after that one, bro.
No, you know what it is?
It's okay.
Yeah, no, I get it, but you know what it is? I think that it's necessary that we flesh these issues out from all of the perspective, from the optimism, from the skeptic, and from the realist, and all and everything in between. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
like you've declared it, and feel free to own it, but you know we're engaging in the conversation because it's necessary. And maybe there is room for more optimism in certain areas that we take notice of as well. So please feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, and I also think you can be a realist and also be optimist as well. You can be within the real world and still have an optimistic thought about how to do things. And I think that this is why this, for me, was so interesting to have so much knowledge on one panel to actually ask the questions, to make
100.
sure that, like Auntie Afong said, that you're not romanticizing the situation, but also to have a real understanding of it, especially with having so much wealth. You know, I'm younger, so I might not have the kind of knowledge of the past as the elders might have. So where something might seem that it makes sense to me, this is why a panel like this is important, and why we should be open to have these kind of questions, optimist or not, and lay them out to people who have the experience and knowledge. So
100.
One of my next questions on top of that was, I think Brother Sekou kind of answered it, because the reason why I asked the question in regards to what would we need to see is not so much for romancing's sake, but also to have a clear understanding to know when we're seeing something that we need to support. What are the key indicators do we need to see in a country that might be moving towards a revolution, like what has been mentioned before in the past, for us younger generations to come up to understand that, okay, that is something that seemingly is something that would look like a revolution or a Pan-African-esque move, or something that we want to see in the right direction. So when I think Brother Sekou said things like, you know, doing your own infrastructure, doing your railways, things like that. The reason why I actually asked that question is because when I've looked into it and done my own research, I've noticed that Burkina Faso is taking control of their gold. Niger is taking control of their uranium and now charging it at market price.
Rate.
Yeah. You know, Mali is doing a new constitution, and so has Burkina Faso, which have done stuff that will actually help with the citizens within. We know that Burkina Faso is also doing a new power plant, working on doing a new power plant. I know that the three countries have also recently decided to stop selling raw materials to Europe. I know that just recent as well that Niger has decided to end, I've got it on here. I think they call it cooking gas as well. So I'm sure that the panelists can probably talk further to it. But I know that, you know, there was some infrastructure through the Sahel to funnel gas, which is very much needed through the EU, through the Sahel. And now Niger has actually said that they are going to, because once they pull out, it can't function, because if they pull out, the whole kind of funnel stops. So there's and I could keep going. So there's things like that, which makes me see that they are implementing certain things where, even as an optimist, as a realist, I can say, okay, well, that is stuff that looks as though it can be helping. Of course, I can look at it and say that, you know, where's the money going to go to and things like that. But at least now, for materials that are coming out of that country is at a, like, that's a bold move in its own. For me, that I think that's a bold move to do to the West, to even implement that as a charge, number one. And also the fact that, you know, when I've heard as well, is that when I'm looking at it as well, and what I've seen, they are getting a lot of support on the ground from the people. So that again was one of the indicators mentioned. But when we're looking at Burkina Faso, they're seeing that a lot of their youth are actually like the people that are enlisting to join their military, if they need to fight, they will. That's the youth on the ground. So that's people, we're seeing thousands of people on the ground cheering them on. So those are kind of things that are similar to the things that I heard in regards to indicators to see. And I think the last thing I'd mention is, you know, cutting off raw materials, disrupting fuels going to Europe, charging market rate for materials. That's not necessarily, it doesn't seem that that would be something to appease. It wouldn't be something a puppet would do to Western masters. That's something that would, yeah, that would definitely be something that would ruffle their feathers.
Interesting points there, Sister Kushti. So I wonder what our guests think of that. Yeah, like are these leaders doing certain things that we should pay attention to and say, well, why that looks like a serious move. For example, refusing to give the uranium at the previous rate and charging what is in fact the market rate for it. For example, cutting off certain resources like gas, yeah, through the pipeline. For example, starting up an indigenous power plant. Yeah, we know that energy is a significant issue all over Africa and all over the African world. Yeah, and so are any of these acts that some of them, at least, coup leaders are engaged in, acts that we should see in a positive light? I'll start with Sister Affiong, Auntie Affiong, on this.
Let me know if you can't hear me, because I see my network is going in and out.
No, we can hear you fine. We can hear you fine.
Excellent. I think obviously we need to be appreciative of the things that are going on, you know, like the issue of uranium, you know, the charges and all these other things that have been listed. That's all positive. Sorry, before I address that, let me quickly say something to my sis. It's not so much old and younger. It's really about us, all of us taking the trouble to study history, because you'll find a lot of older people that are 10 times more naive than any young person you could ever come across. You know, so it's really not, and yeah, so that's what it is. It's just about studying history, because the beauty of history is that it gives you the patterns, you know. It says if you see A, you know, then you know this is what's coming and stuff. So that's, I just wanted to say that, because yes, I mean, we have so many ignorant, you know, older people that it just, you know, makes you look at them as a waste of space. And then of course, very revolutionary young people. So back to the issue. So yes, so there are all these things that are being declared and being done, and one has to be appreciative of that. But you see, it's, you know, we're all on different categories. There are people who just study things and discuss things, you know, and then hopefully there are those who are actually involved in attempting to raise the consciousness of the people. And then there are those who are involved in trying to organize for revolution. So to whatever extent anybody's involved, the stakes are different for us, you see. If we're saying that, oh, they've changed the price of uranium, excellent. Are they actually selling it at that price that has been stated publicly? Number two, who is it being actually sold to? You know, because you know, one of the things I've found out over time, you know, in terms in the process of doing the work that I do, is that, let me give you an example, and it will look like I'm digressing. I'm not. See, Russia and Ukraine are at war now, and so the masses are, everybody's either on Russia's side or Ukraine's side. You'll be shocked to know that they're still having meetings. They have discussions. Intergovernmental things are still going on. The point I'm making is that what we see on the outside is actually not what is happening behind the scenes. So, for example, and I'm just speaking. Niger could say, oh yes, we've changed the price of our uranium. Maybe they're selling it at some other price to the Americans. So they've switched from the French to the Americans. So now to us, is that a good thing? To you, is that a progressive thing? The answer to any revolutionary Pan-Africanist would be no. And that's why I said, yes, there's been a rebellion. They've quarreled with one partner, with one imperialist, faction, so to speak. But they haven't quarreled with imperialism itself. You see, and these are the things. So we need to look deep for our own sakes, so we do not fall into the pit. They haven't quarreled with imperialism. They've quarreled with one faction. And it's the same thing we have in the neo-colonies. That in terms of the neo-colonial forces, there might be a quarrel between themselves. It doesn't necessarily represent the interest of the people. Yeah. But anyway, so going forward, one is grateful for that, hopefully, and that's the thing. We hope that indeed the uranium is actually being sold for the price they say is sold. And then if it is being sold, what exactly are the proceeds used for? Look at us in Nigeria. We have so much oil. We sell all our oil, but we're in darkness. As I speak to you, we're in darkness. There's no electricity. But we have oil. We're rich. So yes, they sell the oil, but the people don't see it. So these are all the contradictions. So on the outside, it might look good and sound good. We just have to examine whether it's actually impacting on the people. So that. Now, sorry, Shakara, what was that? I don't know if that was the actual question you asked.
No, it was. And it wasn't really my question. I was just buttressing Sister Empress Kush's observations and turning it into a question, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's all it was. But yeah, thank you for that. Go ahead.
Let me just end on this note that so it doesn't appear that one is being negative and just being dismissive. Ultimately, all struggle is about the interests of the masses of our people. It's not about makeup. It's not about looking nice, sounding good, because both the neo-colonial criminals that we have ruling us on the continent and the imperialist criminals that we have, in the western part of the world, they sound good. Their rhetorics are excellent. But the impact of the mass is what, as revolutionary Pan-Africanists, we have to set our standards by. And it's still not looking good. Now, imagine in Burkina Faso or Mali or wherever, if revolutionary forces begin to rise and say, you know what, these coup leaders, we actually need to go forward. We need to advance, the struggle. You really need to be anti-imperialist completely. They'll take you out. They'll take you out. Especially if, for example, some forces begin to speak against the US, for example, they'll be like, stop, we're anti-France, but don't go, against the US. And let me give you one interesting example. And well, let me just say it. Our big sister, Dr. Arikana, yes. Mm-hmm. She's very anti-France, and rightly so. Mm-hmm. But she's very pro-American. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I seem to be going off. Let me change my location.
You're still here, Auntie. You're still here.
Yes. So I was saying, I can see, I was saying that Dr. Arikana is very anti-French. Yeah? Can you still hear me?
We can.
Okay, so she's very anti-French, but very pro-US. If you check, you'll see a picture where she went to visit, AFRICOM, the high command, people. And she's sitting with them, with the African forces, But as you know, she's one of the strongest voices against France.
Against France.
How do we reconcile that? How do we reconcile that?
Let me ask you this, Auntie. Yeah? Let me ask you this. Just put in a perspective to you on that particular subject. Could it be that she was the AU ambassador to America, and in her position of ambassadorship was engaging in diplomacy and continues to do so. So, for example, I've seen her say like words that what was it in relation to? There was some, you know, the speculation in the West about Russia's relationship with Africa, and she would say things that, well, America would still be, for most African nations, our preferred trading partner, but America has dropped the ball. For example, she would say things like that in terms of, you know, because it engages in exploitative trading relationships. Yeah, for example. So could it be, just putting this out there, could it be that her positioning is an act of diplomacy rather than an allegiance to the American empire?
Well, I don't know what to say. You know, this, you know, such a terrible situation as Africans that, you know, any rubbish, you know, is it's pleasant to our ears because of how deep in the shit we're in. You know, the American empire is probably worse, more vicious than the French empire. But you know, it's the difference between a crocodile and an alligator. You tell me which one is better, you know, so that I can make friends with that one, you know. So it's just for us, you know, to be cognizant of these things. And of course, it's true that, you know, in terms of diplomacy, you know, you need to play some cards and things. But so that's on their level. For us, we need to be cognizant of these different things and these different issues, you know, because it also lulls the masses of our people into a false consciousness, you know, that, oh yeah, France is our enemy, but America is our friend, you know, and it's a state of consciousness of the masses that when the people see that, they're not able to see past that diplomacy. You know, they're not able to see that you might have escaped from a python, but there's a cobra coming for you on the way. You know, so that's what it is, you know, and we can make a million analyses of, you know, diplomacy. It's diplomacy that has gotten us into a state of neocolonialism. If when our first ancestors, you know, when you know, the Europeans or the Arabs, you know, whichever, came across the sea and we just chopped off the necks immediately without any diplomacy, we probably wouldn't be where we are today. You know, so I mean, I'm using, it might sound violent and vicious, but we've been paying for it, you know, for over 1,500 years with the Arabs and 500 years with the Europeans. We're still paying for it. You know, but let me leave it there. We're sort of, you know, I'm sort of getting out of the discourse today.
No, you're not, Auntie. You're on the discourse very much, and I'm just so glad that you're here to provide that analysis. And we're going to come back to some broader issues shortly. But let us get some answers from Brother Leader and Brother Sekou, if they have any. You don't have to answer every question, by the way, brothers and sisters, or guests on the panel. So if you don't have an answer, that's fine. I'm just giving you the opportunity to delve into that. Sister Kushti has raised some policy positions, so to speak, that our brothers and sisters in power have at least put forward verbally, and in some instances are actioning, or there's evidence of them actioning. How should we put those things into context and perspective?
Yeah, Tenai Mwari, I think Sister Afyong has nailed it on a myriad of levels. So, you know,
as is characteristic of Auntie Afyong.
Absolutely. And as she spoke about switching allegiances, Ghana and its present president, Nana Akufo-Addo.
He's all right, though, isn't he? He's one of us.
Well, you know, he's known these days for making you know, Pan-African sound bites that excites some of us. And a couple of years ago, he spoke publicly about Ghana taking control of its cocoa market, you know, taking back the cocoa market, and you know, adding value to it and so on. And what it was is that he was switching clientele from Sweden to American corporations.
Corporations. And white people in South Africa have come to realize.
Yeah, and that's what that was about. But the present status, when you consider that 98% of Ghana's gold is owned and controlled by America and Canada, when you consider that Terminal 1 of its airport is under the complete and utter control of the American government. Can you believe that? That American military personnel can go in and out of Ghana without having to go through Ghana customs. They don't need a passport. Yeah, they go through Terminal 1 that is in the total control of the American government. And yet when you hear Akufo-Addo, who is a trickster, when you hear him speak sometimes, you would think that he is a man of Pan-African substance. Yeah, you look at Rwanda, which many of us like also to big up. You know, Paul Kagame and Rwanda, and on the face of it, it looks like some good things are happening in Rwanda. You see infrastructure developments, you see educational improvements in education, you see improvements in healthcare. We understand the streets are very clean and what have you. We would have heard, you know, a decade or so ago coming on, you would have heard Paul Kagame lambasting the French, and the French had a stronghold in Rwanda for a period of time with the Belgians and so on. Now it's the Americans and the British, to the extent that the Rwanda has transformed itself from a so-called francophone country to an anglophone country, where the official language is now English as opposed to French, and it's changed all of its documents into English from French. So we have gone.
Shout out to Tony Blair.
Absolutely, and really, Rwanda is run by Tony Blair and his Institute for Global Change, which is in about 15 African countries. It's also propped up by the American government, to the extent that the M23 militia that is plaguing the east of the Congo presently, which is funded by the Rwanda government, which is also funded by the American government. So we have to, we have to make these analyses. We have to make proper systems analysis of what is transpiring on the African continent. And Sister Affiong said earlier on about the treachery, the sniding nature of the American government. Do not underestimate. America has 2 massive drones in Niger. America has massive strategic interests in controlling Niger. The French have become very unpopular in not just Niger, but many francophone countries.
That's Central Africa.
America is now taking up the reins, and we have to understand the relationship between America and France historically. They work hand in glove. Look at the history of Haiti and how America has backed up France in maintaining oppression and exploitation of Haiti. Look at the historical relationship between these 2 forces. America is also behind this massive project called the Trans-Sahara Gas Pipeline, which is intended to replace the Nord Stream pipeline that evidently the Americans themselves blew up. The Nord Stream pipeline from Russia to Europe, which evidently America blew up. This pipeline is supposed to replace the gas supply that the Nord Stream pipeline was supposed to provide.
Right.
So we understand, and when America refuses to refer to the military takeover in Niger as a coup, when everybody else is saying it's a coup, that also is to protect its strategic interests in Niger. If America says this is a coup, according to its own laws, its own domestic laws, as well as according to international law, America will have to stop funding the Niger government and the Niger army. America's strategic interest requires that it continues to fund, so it continues to control.
Yeah.
The Nigerian government and the Nigerian army. It funds the aspects of the Nigerian army, as well as the French government. These are the issues that we need to factor into whatever analysis we make. And so what our sister has broken down sounds good on the surface. We hope that it is profoundly what we're seeing is a transformation. It is profoundly transformative and sustainable. We hope that that is the case. But as Sister Affiong has said, we have to look at history. And we have to look at the forces that are at play. We have to be very, very careful.
Yes. Give thanks for that, brother leader.
It's very treacherous.
100%. Give thanks. Just to add to what you said as well, brother leader. Nana Akufo-Addo went viral some years ago as well for speaking some strong words during a visit of Emmanuel Macron to Ghana. Yeah. And he spoke some strong words about French neocolonialism, only to a few years later sell off the main port, Tema port in Ghana, which is the main shipping port in Ghana, to a French billionaire. Yeah.
Well, didn't you hear him at the United Nations? Even at the United Nations meeting, this last one, he was sounding so revolutionary on the question of reparations. If you don't know him, you'll actually believe him. But anyway, leave him. That is my friend. So
and let us not forget that his father was involved in the coup that overthrew the Osage for Kwame Nkrumah.
No, seriously.
He has pedigree.
Yeah, 100%. But sorry, it's also necessary to note that the French billionaire that he sold the port to owns 15 other ports, yeah, along the African coastline, yeah. Vincent Bolloré is his name is. Yeah?
Bolloré, yeah.
Yeah, but Vincent Bolloré, right? So after all that big talk, yeah, to Macron, yeah, really get excited. I'm gonna sell off the port.
You see, many of these leaders today, in order to establish credibility amongst their people and amongst African people worldwide, they have to sound somewhat Pan-Africanist, somewhat revolutionary, and they have mastered the vain and empty use of revolutionary sound bites, or militant sound bites. But it means nothing. It very too often it amounts to empty rhetoric. Yeah.
All right. So, Robert Leader. Sorry, go on.
I was just gonna land by saying, let's hear what they are saying. Let's hear what they are proposing. But again, as I said, time is the master. Let's see what transpires in practice. Yeah. Let's not get overexcited about the sound bites, about the rhetoric. Let's see what transpires, because a revolutionary must have track record, and as far as I can see, none of them that are at the forefront of these coups, none of them have revolutionary track records. If you study the life of Thomas Sankara, you would see from a very young age where he was being guided, where he was being coached, where he was being taught. And Thomas Sankara has told us that a soldier without ideological training, without appropriate ideological training, or without revolutionary training, is a potential terrorist. Thomas Sankara told us that. So if these soldiers do not have revolutionary ideological training, we should be very concerned.
Give thanks, Brother Leader. Brother Seko, I'm going to give you an opportunity to respond to the points that Sister Kushti raised, and then I have a question specifically for Auntie Afyong, and I've got another question for the panel. Yeah, so go ahead. If you have anything to say on the observations of Sister Kushti and some of the things that may be positive about what these leaders are doing at the moment, and your thoughts on them. Go ahead.
Yeah, I believe none of those things move me, unfortunately, Sister Kush. I, being a realist, we've seen those things before. Yeah, I've been a realist.
You're out here shattering dreams, my brother. You're just out here.
I'm not look, I grew up when we were coming up in the 90s. There was something they used to call the Ivorian miracle.
Right.
Le miracle ivoirien. Côte d'Ivoire was supposed to be Singapore. Okay, Abidjan was the city to visit. Why? The French were buying the cocoa and the coffee.
Under Ufwebwani.
Onya Félix Ufwebwani.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the shining city on the hill, and they told Modibo Keita of Mali, you see, when you submit to the French, this is what happened. You get clean street. They told Amasekou Touré of Guinea, you see, Ufwebwani submitted himself. I think this is the same thing they're doing to Kagame now. So they cleaned it. Abidjan was looking good. But guess what? He skipped the reality, which is industrialization. The economy was not based on industrialization. It was based on selling natural resources and World Bank giving him more loan. And he went and built the biggest cathedral in the world, the Basilica. Okay.
300 million pounds it cost.
Yeah. He built the biggest church in the village where most of the people there were traditional worshippers. There he built the biggest Catholic church. Okay. And the economy collapsed. Côte d'Ivoire went to war after him and everything collapsed. Now they have another one there now. Alassane Dramane Ouattara doing the same thing. So these guys changing the prices of their stuff and then increasing it on the market. All of these things don't move me, brother. We've not seen real economic plan. We've not seen real industrial plan. Diop told these people how the industrialization will have happened, how the energy, what we needed to do. They have abandoned everything. They are following World Bank. And I can tell you for free, the IMF, the World Bank, anyone is using their textbooks and think that you will industrialize, you are wasting your time. There is a phrase in Africa that all the African leaders use. It's called development. Development, we want to do development. Your Excellency, especially Nigeria, if you play the TV, Your Excellency, for the development. What is development? Okay, why are you guys using, you don't hear the British, Americans talking about development in their country. Africans are going around with this fake idea of development, which actually means following the Western world, trying to become a little Paris, trying to become a little London, trying to become a little Lisbon, copying these people, that these people have obtained the highest level of development. So we are not developed. We are coming from the Stone Age. So in order for us to develop now, we must follow them. That paradigm is what is wrong. It doesn't even matter whether they change the price of their natural resources. Africans leaders have not really sat down to see what do they really want for their people. What do they really want in terms of culture? In Mali, I'll just end with Mali. The brother wrote a nice constitution. He said he's going to have a national language and there will be no more French. But guess what? The constitution that is supposed to out French was written in French. He wrote a constitution in French to ban French. Okay.
Okay.
Then, yeah, this is how the comedy. You wrote the Constitution.
I'm not gonna lie, my brother. When I heard that, I was like, that's a because we speak about these things all the time, and it's like how can we have all these colonial languages? So when he got rid of the colonial, I was like, okay, that's because nobody's doing that. Who's doing that?
So
but I
it's
didn't
like
know what you just said.
I come to ban English, then I'm
Yeah.
speaking English. I have come to ban English, but the Constitution I'm reading is in English. It's a reaction. It's more reactionary. It's not proactive. I would have taken 10 years planning the new language that would take over the country, trying to translate all textbooks, all science books, mathematics, government document, translate everything into the new national language, and then you come up. But you go over there and put 16 indigenous languages in the Constitution, and then now you say you French, but you still speak French on TV at the United Nations. Just on the Mali went there and addressed the whole world in French. These people are jokers. These changing of prices of things, sisters, I'm not impressed. I am waiting for real. And to be frank, we Pan-African, we need to also take some blame. We are missing from the discussion that's ongoing on the continent. The Pan-Africanists are missing.
Hold that point. I'm gonna come to that point. But
we are missing in action.
Right. Okay. All right. We're gonna come back to what Brother Sekou just said, yeah. And brothers and sisters, we're tuned into some very hard in what's the dyed in the wool Pan-Africanist, yeah. who you know what I'm saying? They do analysis for breakfast, right? So you know what I mean? You're getting the hard analysis right about now, straight no chaser. And yeah, so I'm gonna apologize to anybody who came here, with their revolutionary optimism and why not? You know what I'm saying? Because at the moment you're getting the hard truths, yeah, from our brothers and sisters who have come to give us the analysis today. However, Brother Sekou raised a point, and I'm gonna come back to this point in a second. But I do want to ask Auntie Afi a question specifically concerning Nigeria, if I may, Auntie, because as we knew. So where I want to go now is to the grassroots, yeah. And so we're going to begin with this issue of Nigeria. And as we know, when the planned invasion of Niger was on the table, the person who was fronting it on behalf of, well, it was said France at the time, and ECOWAS was Tinubu, yes, of Nigeria, yeah. And now there were some reports that said that the people on the ground in Nigeria were fundamentally against, this particular move or suggestion on the part of the Nigerian government, yeah. What can you tell us, Auntie Afiang, about that specific situation, and what the vibes is on the ground among the people in Nigeria as regards these coups and the situation to do with rebelling against the French incursion and neocolonialism in Africa? You're on mute, Auntie.
Well,
go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. So it was an excellent, the reaction from the people was just excellent all over. All the different sections of what you call civil society here, and people, just said, leave the Niger people alone. It's none of your business. Although in a way that's a bit reactionary, that the government of Nigeria is so backward and corrupt, and this and that, and that you have no business. That in fact the people in Niger are even better than you in power here. How dare you say you're going to go and invade them? What's your business there? Put your mouth out of it and face your own demons here. So that was the reaction from all over. All over. Now, another interesting thing, as we always say, as Pan-Africanists, all the borders are fake, because on each side of the border you have the same ethnic nations who have been split into two, and put in two separate countries because of colonialism. So all the people on the Nigerian border, to do with Niger, because they are the same ethnic group, they said to him, they said, you must be crazy, thinking you're going to go and invade our family there, that you have to pass through us first, before you go, anywhere near them. So there was also that dynamic. And of course, in terms of progressive forces here, we're able to challenge the government, that you're acting like a stooge, for the West, because the reaction was instantaneous, that we're giving Niger 7 days and we're going to do this and that. Who the hell are you? If you had any sense, as a fellow African government, you would want to negotiate and discuss, with, your fellow neo-colonial leaders, whether they're in military uniform or in civilian garb, to say, what's the issue? What happened? But because the government here was so anxious to portray itself to the West, as a beacon of democracy, and we're not going to tolerate, any coups, that's why they quickly did that. But the other point was that they made that move, no thinking, no strategy, no discussions, nothing. And they just made that declaration. I'm sure the Americans told them quietly, you better take it easy. We're not necessarily against the coups, So they quickly calmed down. But there was also another dynamic to it. Surprisingly, the National Assembly, both the Senate and the House of Representatives, because in Nigeria we have a dual house of parliament, both of them actually ruled against the government and said, you have no authority to go to war. That this thing must be discussed, first before you're going around declaring, war on fellow African, states. So it was, and there was no support from anywhere, and that's why it just died a natural death. Everybody condemned it, everybody. And of course, because the other thing was also the consciousness that coup is a move against France. Why would you want to go and attempt to, reverse it? So, like I said, for me, all these coups, I'm very grateful for the little bit of consciousness, that it showed, that, at least we're anti-French, or our people, so-called Francophone countries were anti-French, and plus the final thing against the coup, against the over ambitious, declaration of the Nigerian government against, Niger, was the fact that we said to them, there were lots of people, I was so shocked, people would call on radio stations and say, the coup is happening in the wrong country. It shouldn't be happening in Niger. You just add an IA to the country it should be happening in, the coup is happening in the wrong country, for God's sake, So that was interesting. By the time they read the message on the wall, they had to back that. So that's what happened in summary.
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for that perspective, Auntie. And I'm going to broaden out that question now, because we've been talking a lot about the coup leaders and the government. But as was said at the beginning of the show, the rebellion, revolutionary or otherwise, against French neocolonialism has been going on for quite some time. Yes, all over so-called francophone or French-speaking Africa. Brother Leader, you was with us when we hosted Brother Kemi Seba in April. Yeah. Not only did he refer to this, but him and his organization, Agence Pan-Africaniste, are very much a part of that groundswell of conscientizing against French neocolonialism. Yeah. And so it appears to be the case, that even beyond the coups, there is significant organizing taking place on the ground, not only in Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Guinea, but in Senegal. Yeah, Senegal has been experiencing significant protest against their neocolonial puppet Macky Sall, in recent months. There's movements, little as we know it, taking place in Togo. People are organizing in Congo and in Cote d'Ivoire, and other places. All right. So my question it relates to what Brother Sekou was saying a minute ago. As Pan-Africanists, we've dropped the ball, so to speak. Yeah. Let me word it like this. To what extent after we've engaged in all this long analysis, and there's more to engage in. Yeah, because we haven't even talked about Russia yet. So I want to get to Russia in a second. All right. However, whilst we're engaging in all this analysis, to what extent are we equipping ourselves to forward the real revolution, as we might refer to it, that is happening on the ground? And what is your impression of those revolutionary or grassroots forces who are organizing on the ground at the moment? And to what extent can we put our faith and our trust and our revolutionary energy and support into those forces on the ground? And I know I'm going to come to Brother Sekou first, because I know he has to go soon, and two, because I know you traveled through like most of West Africa. So go ahead.
The last part of the question, you said what?
To what extent what is our reading of the forces on the ground? Yeah. So forget about military governments at the moment. Africans have been organizing on the ground for quite some time, for at least a decade, in significant numbers. Yeah. We saw the protest against the CFA franc. Brother Kemi Seba burning the CFA franc and masses all over Benin, and it's all like we're just out, against French neocolonialism. To what extent is this energy revolutionary, and to what extent are we connected as Pan-Africanists to it, in your humble estimation?
Yes, for some reason, I won't lie to you if I tell you I have all the answers why. I would be lying to you. But what I've observed is that the Pan-African revolutionaries are really missing from the mainstream African activity. For some reason, they've been relegated from the mainstream. Apart from Julius Malema in South Africa, who actually fought hard to be in that central role, to be speaking a different voice from the mainstream. If you go to Nigeria, for example, you put on the TV and you hear all the intellectual elite speaking. There's nothing about Pan-Africanism. In fact, the last election they had, the three candidates, Bola Tinubu, Atiku Abubakar representing the north, Bola Tinubu representing the southwest, and then Peter Obi representing the southeast. None of them talk about Pan-Africanism. It was in the underground. It was even more tribal, because Tinubu was like representing the southwest and they predominantly voted for him. Atiku representing the Muslims of the north, they kind of voted for him, and in some splits. Then you have Peter Obi from the southeast. So Pan-African discussion was missing. And even in the civil society, when people are talking, there's no Nigeria, for some reason, I don't know, Pan-Africanism is not in the mainstream, is 0-0. Now, in other countries where it used to be, like Ghana or very places like Liberia, it's really missing for some reason. The intellectual elite are talking like neoliberals. They are talking. It's only what you see on CNN is what you see on African TV. It's what you see on BBC. They don't talk, even when they discuss Palestinian issue, when they discuss, nobody go back and actually look at African history or what African position is. Their entire political discussion is based on neoliberalism and what is happening in the United States and the UK. They've lost track. So the intellectual elite have managed for some reason to divert the attention of the people by discussing false topic. The topic that are not real to the people is what people discuss. For example, there was Peter Obi, we cannot vote for him because he's Igbo. He comes from the East. Is that the problem of African people? Tinubu, we cannot vote for him. He's kind of Yoruba and he's Muslim and what? Is that the issue? So the real issues are not discussed because the Pan-Africanists are not in the center stage. Thank God to Kemi Seba. Big thanks to him. He actually, in the Francophone countries, he was able to bring Pan-African revolutionary discussion back on the mainstream. He did that by going to prison, by doing a lot of activism, by going against the safer. He did that a lot. But to the quote-unquote I don't like to use the word Anglophone, but the English-speaking part of Africa, the Pan-African discussion is now Professor Lumumba once in a while. He made good speeches, but the grassroots, in terms of a political movement, I don't know of one major political party in Nigeria that's Pan-African, in Ghana that's Pan-African. In Liberia, we picked up the EFF, but they compromised and I resigned because I resigned very quickly. When I see you are not following the Pan-African Revolutionary Plan, I resign. I'm not into politics to make money. So I don't know. I can't tell you I have all the answers, but something is definitely wrong. Maybe my fellow panelists can help explain why we are missing in action.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for that, my brother. I much appreciate that. I know you have to go in a second, yeah. So I'm just gonna give you a last word from now, and before I go to the other panelists.
Okay. Yes. I just want to thank Sister Empress Kush. Thank you and for the opportunity. Sister Effiong, thank you. Your brilliant analysis. And Brother Mbadaka, thank you for your great knowledge and wisdom. And always, my brother Shakara, you know, always we learn from you, from the reservoir of wisdom. Pan-Africanism is the last hope, I would say, for melanated people on the planet. We like it or not, Pan-Africanism continues to call us. It continues to call us because it is the way forward. Those ancestors who saw it, who saw that ideology and saw that vision, because they were really having our best interest at heart. If we betray Pan-Africanism, we will betray ourselves. That's what we are where we are today, because Pan-Africanism was betrayed. So it's not because Pan-Africanism failed. It's because Pan-Africanism was betrayed. That's why we are where we are. So if we get committed to this ideology and really stand by it, we stand. The only thing we are going to gain is victory. The only thing we were going to gain is victory, and we lose nothing. For some of us who come from the Afrocentric school of Pan-Africanism, we have stood our ground in terms of culture. We stand our ground. Africa is our culture. Africa is my religion. Africa, God is my God. Africanity is my humanity. And this is where I stand. I'm not anti-American. I'm not anti-Chinese. I'm not anti-Muslim. I'm just pro-African. So with that, I say peace and blessing.
Thank you very much, Brother Sekou. Love to you, love to your family, and we look forward to hosting you again on gotkushTV in the not too distant future. But give thanks.
It was nice meeting you, Brother Sekou. I hope we can, stay in touch.
Thank you.
Yeah, why are there, Pa? Aiko, you have done well, my brother. You have wrought well this evening, and we give thanks and praises. May the Creator and the ancestors take you and continue to strengthen you and bring you back to us. Tenai Mwari.
Yes, kings and queens. No doubt you're going to hear Brother Sekou once again soon. If you've heard him before, you know Brother Sekou is a serious man. Yeah, there's a lot we can learn from our brother, and he always gives us something to think about. All right, Empress Kushti, you there?
Yeah.
What's it called? I'm just making sure you're still with us, Kushti.
Yeah, I'm still breathing, still here.
I think
serious bluntness.
Yeah, I think I'm shouting Empress Kushti's dreams today, so we need to revive Empress Kushti. You know what I'm saying, and put the picture back together. All right, but I just wanted to come to you quickly just to see if you had any comment or question at this point before I go into some next stuff.
No, I'll follow your flow. It's no problem.
All right, cool. Just checking in. Right, brother leader, Auntie Effiong. Coming back to my question a minute ago, yeah, like what we need to tap into the voices on the ground. Okay, so not just our analysis of the military leaders, but the voices and the movements on the ground. Yeah. So how are we assessing that, and to what extent are we connected as Pan-Africanists, especially from the English-speaking Pan-African world to those brothers and sisters in the French-speaking Pan-African world?
Well, should I go, Sister Effiong?
Yes, sir. Go on.
Tenai Mwari. I think that's such an important question. I think our starting point must be to always assume that there are genuine revolutionary forces at play from the grassroots level in any African nation, that the spirit of African liberty, the spirit of African revolution is alive in every African nation, that our people are disposed to having a clear sense. There will be some among us, there will always be some among us who will be clear that we are still suspended in the yoke of oppression and we still have a fight on our hands for total liberation. And in that context, there will always be the spirit of the irritated genie, the spirit of the irritated, the unrested spirit of the irritated genie that refuse to accept or be comfortable with the system of oppression, that will always rebel against that system. And we will see that from time to time on the African continent, even if some among us have not processed and developed a clear ideological understanding of Pan-Africanism, of revolution even, but they know there is a clear sense that we are being oppressed and we have to resist the system of oppression. We have to overthrow the system of oppression. We have to overthrow the people who are oppressing us. We must always believe that that spirit dwells among our people. And we must always believe that that spirit has the capacity to mushroom and to engulf the majority of our people. That's what we have to push for. We have to have faith in the people, in the revolutionary spirit that dwells among the people, and in our capacity to tap into that spirit and to ignite that spirit. We must always have that that belief, and that is even more than belief. We must always have that conviction, and we must always go forward with that conviction. The work that people like Kemi Seba and Akon in Senegal, the work that people like those do, whatever their imperfections may be, are priceless, because what they are doing is they are inspiring critical thinking among our people. They are coming with a authentic way of thinking. I don't want to say a new way of thinking, an authentic, more African-centered way of thinking and analyzing and our realities. And by the way, before I go any further, I want to make it clear to Sister Kush that we value the contributions that you have made to this discussion this evening and the points that you have made. And I hope it doesn't feel like we're just shooting down every point that you have raised this evening, but that this is a learning process for all of us. And I'm still saying that I hope that the optimism that you are feeling will prove to be well placed. I'm still hoping. I want my pessimism, and like brother Sekou, I've always said the same thing, that I'm a realist. I'm neither prone to pessimism or prone unduly to optimism. If anything, I'm probably more of an optimist than I am a pessimist. But I like to think that more than anything else, I'm a realist. And we have to deal with the reality of the history that has brought us to where we are today as a people, and the contradictions that have manifested themselves over centuries that enables us to read the signs of the time. And we would like to think, I would like to think that we have helped our people in the process of just reading more accurately the signs of the time, because we cannot allow these people to continue to pull the wool over our eyes. Can I just say also that, you know, we have a massive problem on our hands as African people, because the system of the political systems that we have on the African continent are not ours. They're not designed by us, and they're not designed to suit our interest. They are designed meticulously to maintain the system of oppression and exploitation of African people. They are designed to maintain the status quo, global white supremacy, Euro-American imperialism. And that system has to be destroyed. And it has to be destroyed by us. Brother Sekou talked earlier on, disparagingly, about, you know, our misguided concept of development. We have models of development that are not based upon our own intellectual capital and our own skills capital being put to work to build our nations. We have a model of development that relies on others to come from abroad and do for us. You know, the Chinese to come and build roads, Chinese to come and build ports. And some of us feel...
Or the Russians.
Or the Russians. And some of us feel that's a good thing. You know, to build, you know, Chinese come and build our stadiums and our auditoriums, you know, so we can show...
And government buildings.
And our government buildings, you know, and can't we build roads? Can't we? Thomas Sankara showed us that it could be done. You know, the Osage for Kwame Nkrumah showed us that it could be done. In Grenada, little Grenada, between 1979 and 1983, showed us what could be done by investing in our own intellectual and skills capital and harnessing our intellectual and skills capital towards nation building, our own construction of roads and railways and ports and telecommunication systems.
Yes.
We are the most brilliant people on the planet. And if at this stage we are completely reliant on others, we can't industrialize. We are relying on others. We provide raw materials so that others can add value and sell it back to us at exorbitant prices. That's the kind of model, economic model we have on the African continent. It has to go. We have to redesign that completely. And so the consciousness that we yearn for amongst African people must be one that moves from ideology to implementation of ideas. That's what we want to see now. And wherever we are as African people on the planet, we have to demonstrate our capacity to develop our ideologies into ideas that we are implementing in practical terms. Then we need to we need to organize ourselves, as Papa Marcus Messiah Garvey demanded of us, that anywhere we find ourselves as African people, we must organize ourselves as a nation of people, meaning we must establish our own system of government and our own order of society. And this is required of us even on the African continent, because the system of governance that we have on the African continent is not ours. And so at the level of the people, we must organize ourselves within the context of a system of government and an order of society that is conducive to the empowerment of African people, to the liberation of African people. And certainly we as Africans here in the UK, Africans in the Caribbean, Africans in the United States of America, Africans in South America, Africans in the Isles of the Pacific, we must organize ourselves as a nation of people, implementing our own systems of governance, our own order of society, our own economic system, our own economic system that we control, that takes care of our material needs and our material interests. Those are the disciplines that we need to develop. And then we need to connect with each other across the waters. Then we need to connect with each other across the waters.
Give thanks for that, brother.
Question, Brother
Yes,
Shaka.
yes, brother. Give him thanks. Give him thanks. Auntie
Give him
Affion has dropped off Tendai Mwari. And so hopefully Auntie Affion will be able to come back. But the link is in the chat, brothers and sisters. The link is in the chat. If you would like to come live and interact with our guests, you can feel free to do so now. For all those who have sent comments and questions in, I'm going to get to them very shortly. I'm going to post the link one more time. And I'm going to thank our guests as well, because we're actually over time at the moment. So we'll be concluding at some point soon. But I'm hoping that Auntie Affion can get back on to interact with brothers and sisters as well. So do bear that in mind. Oh, Lord. I think I put that in the wrong place. All on there. No, I didn't. It's in there. Yeah. So the link is in the chat, brothers and sisters. If you want to come live and ask our panelists a question or make a comment or even challenge anything that they've said, you know what I'm saying, feel free to come and do so. I'm going to bring forward Bunya. Bunya is in the building, and then I'm going to take a couple questions from the chat. Greetings, Mr. Bunya.
Greetings, Tendai Mwari. Greetings, everybody.
Tendai Mwari.
Greetings.
Yeah, I'm having a nice restful evening, you know, at home. With the newborn son. See, I announced it on your platform there, Shaka.
Yeah, announced it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Uncle Bandaka, I did catch you at the Kemi Seba when I came to greet you, and the wife was swollen on the other side. You didn't get to see her because she was a bit far away, but yeah, you met the son already. Put it that way. You meet him already. You know?
And praises. I feel blessed and honored, my dear brother. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari. So yeah, I mean, I'm inspired to kind of speak just a little bit about my experience in Senegal again. I do need to collate something a bit more structured, because I feel like I'm always just answering questions from you, Brother Shakara, and I feel like it's worth putting something together a little bit more, formal.
No, my brother, we've got to organize a session with you again anyway. So I haven't lost that. Yeah. So yeah, don't worry about that. We're gonna happen. Yeah.
Yes, sir. But yeah, no, I was just thinking about some of my experiences. My next stop is likely to be Dominica, where my mother is from, and the similar intentions I've had in Senegal. I have for Dominica as well. But really, I was thinking, listening to all of you lot talk, I was just thinking about the response that I got from, not even a response first, the surveying the kind of the environment, the political environment in the very, very young people in Senegal, in Dakar at the very least anyway. It was interesting to see that the French presence was always there, even if they're not visible, but that they were so easily taken in by Pan-Africanist ideas on the ground that it did frustrate me a little bit to know that I took myself and went over there with my own money, and that many more of us could do so, and they were quite surprised to see, shocked even to see, not only a Pan-Africanist from Europe coming over to greet them and to work with them, but also an Anglophonic Pan-Africanist with Jamaican and Dominican roots coming over. So, and I was welcomed in. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like it's not a obviously I'm not a pessimist, because I'm an actor. You know, I'll take action and go where it needs to be gone. But also, I just think that more can be done, or we can maybe think a little bit more dynamically about how we can make the best use of minimal tools, really. Many of us will go on holiday to this destination and that destination, and we could be doing a little bit more. I've got, in Jamaica, for example, I have a cousin who's a principal of a school in Anoto Bay, and even these things I struggle to think of until someone just prods me and says, "Oh, but what about this one?" And I think that there's ways to think about the type of work we do that is not necessarily treading the beaten path. It's a little bit takes a little bit more of a dynamic thought process, but sometimes less resources as well. And yeah, this is kind of where my mind went to with regards to how we can strengthen that bond between the Anglophone and the Francophone Pan-African world, you know.
Give thanks for that, brother Bunyas. Feel free to stay where you are. We're going to come back to you. I do want to shout out two people who I know are tuning in right about now. The first is brother Sang from the All African People's Revolutionary Party. He hasn't commented for a while, so I can't find him comment them. I think I found one. Right, so yeah, just check out brother Sang. I'm just going to bring up his thing so you can go look for him page. Yeah. Our brother's been an organizer for many years in our community, so yeah, go check him out. From Equatorial Guinea as well. Yeah. So yeah, shout out to brother Sang of the All African People's Revolutionary Party, AAPRP, and also the one and only Chief Fode. Chief Fode is in the building of the Black Star Action Network International, as well as the UNIA ACL, as well as the Gullah Nation of North America. Yes, indeed. Over there in Sierra Leone, right about now, kings and queens. And so we love our brothers and sisters over there in Sierra Leone. It's beautiful to visit them last year. So do stay tuned for more, because you're going to hear all of those voices on gotkushTV in the not too distant future. Right. We have, I'm trying to get Auntie Affion back. I am in contact, and there is one or two technicals. So, okay, that shouldn't but that can't be okay. Auntie Afia is having some difficulty getting back, brothers and sisters. So I'm trying to work that out. So yeah, stay tuned. But yeah, is anybody having any difficulty? Just let me know if anybody else is having any difficulty with the link that I've shared in the chat. Yeah.
Shakara, what I was there, I was on another stream a little while ago, and I was kicked off quite a few times, and the mute button on StreamYard has been acting up. You could be on mute, but you could be heard. So I think today there's some bugs on the network. Yeah.
So you say what you're basically telling me that COINTELPRO is at work.
Yeah, man, they're there.
And preventing Auntie Affion from coming back. Well, Auntie Affion, all I can ask you to do, if you, because Auntie Affion has said she's listening, it's just to try clicking that link, yeah, because there doesn't seem to be any problems on our side, and our brother has said that there might be some bugs in the system, but I'm gonna double check to see if there's anybody in the kicked out part, because I haven't kicked anybody out, and I certainly wouldn't kick out Auntie Affion. So please keep trying, Auntie, because I would love for you to contribute some more to this conversation before you wrap up. All right. Set Imhotep, Trinidad is in the building.
Peace and Pan-African power to everybody under the sound of my voice, the audience in general, and to the panel specifically, those who are here still and those who were here earlier. I'm actually a little bit, I came in a little bit too late to catch some of the panelists on, but it's all right. I had a few questions. I don't know if I'll be able to get through all of them. It's 4 of them. Yeah?
There's 4 questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not gonna get through the 4 of them, King.
All right, no worries. Let me see which is the most.
Yeah, get the most. I'm only saying that because so I'm gonna skip your ones in that you've posted in the chat, but I want to get some of the ones that have been posted in the chat as well. Yeah, and I think
no
Auntie
problem.
So you're lucky. So yeah, all right. Auntie Affion is back in the building. Yes, indeed, Auntie Affion is back in the building. So we give thanks. And Empress Kushti, anytime you want to come true. Yeah.
Yes, fine.
All right. Okay. Where are we? Go ahead, Imhotep.
I think I could cut it down to 2. Hopefully, these are 2 really good questions.
Yes,
firstly, I wanted to know what are the panelists' opinions of Julius Malema and the EFF in general. I didn't know that Sekou had been a part before today, so I wish he was here to answer. But yeah, if anybody, and then I'll ask the other one afterward.
Yep. By the way, before you answer that question, brother leader, you mentioned the man who has been appointed as prime minister in Burkina Faso. You did neglect to mention his name. You dropped short of mentioning his name. Yeah, but I've got it here. It's Joachim, and I believe it will be pronounced Chelem de Tambele. Yeah. You're on mute, brother leader, but I believe that the KY if it's consistent with other African languages in the region, would be pronounced with a ch sound.
Chi, yeah.
Chelem. So
yeah. In fact, his first name is Apolleme.
Right. Yeah. But I think we could do it. We don't with the rest of it. We don't really need Apollyon.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. All right. Cool. So Tambela. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is his family name. And so we need to learn more about our brother. So I'm just putting that name out there. But the name I've just mentioned is the name of the Sankara-ist Pan-Africanist who has been on the ground in Burkina Faso and who has been appointed as Prime Minister of Burkina Faso under the presidency, I do believe. Is Ibrahim Traoré considered to be presidential? Ceremonial head?
Yeah, I think,
right, of Burkina Faso. So we just putting it out there. But Brother Imhotep is asking Auntie Affion, Brother Leader, what is your perspective on Julius Malema and the EFF?
I'm not sure what to say. I think that one of the things that those of us who describe ourselves as Pan-Africanists and those of us who also describe ourselves or who operate as activists, because it's not necessarily all Pan-Africanists that are activists, you know. We don't occupy enough space in the politics of wherever we are, of our different locations. So our work is mainly amongst, maybe the community for those who are even active in that sense. But in terms of politics, we're absent. So, and that's a serious issue. And I think it's an indictment on us, and it's a conversation that needs to be had. That we need to be more engaged with mass politics, even though it's essentially bourgeois politics. But we need to be in the space, in the town, what is it called? The town center, center of the town. We're not out there. So Malema now has overcome that hurdle, so to speak, and he's involved in politics. And you see that, he uses his voice, to push a lot of positions. And, there's a lot, he has a very high profile, international profile, because he's involved in politics. He's not on the fringe. He's not on the outskirts, giving his analysis, about what is happening. It's like, you know how in the ring, it's just it could be two or more boxers or wrestlers, and the referee, if it's a group boxing thing. But you see, there are thousands of people, besides the ring in the square, giving shadow punches, commenting, making analysis, lamenting when they're losing and cheering when they're winning. So my general thing with him is that he's occupying the space, and that's my own my own position vis-a-vis politics. And with politics, I'm talking about electoral politics, So he's occupying the space. He's saying a lot of things. He's speaking up, like when I hear him say things, he faces, the reactionary South African masses, who are anti other Africans, because of so-called xenophobia and lots of other things. But he faces them, squarely, and he says, I stand with, the other African family, and if that means losing your vote, then let me lose your vote. But I will not be anti-African because of A, B, C, D, E, F. That's a powerful thing. When somebody's able to face, their own country people and say, this is my position, So that's my distant analysis. Distant as in I'm far off, and, just looking from the outside in. But there are lots of other issues. But first of all, the point I'm making is that he's holding up the flag. And that's my point. He's holding up the flag. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's no small feat that the EFF has become the third biggest party in South Africa. That is
exactly.
Not a small, it's not exactly. No small feat. you know, especially in this particular climate, right? So yeah, very interesting. Go ahead, brother leader.
Yeah, Tendai Mwari. Well, firstly, let me say that I love the work of the EFF insofar as the EFF fundamentally challenges the status quo of the South African political status quo, which is dominated and controlled and manipulated by the same forces of oppression and exploitation and degradation that disgraced South Africa and the African continent with the system of apartheid. They are still in power economically. They still control over 80% of the land, over 90% of the economy. And if you control that much, you might as well say you control 100%. And so the force that is represented by the EFF is a critical force. I saw a rally that they had a couple of months ago in a stadium.
Yeah,
where there were over
the 10th anniversary rally.
Yeah, the 10th anniversary rally, where there were over 100,000 people in the ground. And that was massively, massively effective. It was very, very powerful. And the issues that were being represented from the platform were crucial issues that went to the heart of the revolutionary ideas that any one of us would espouse. So that's, you know, on the positive side. And from that point of view, long may that force continue to grow into a force that is strong enough to overthrow the present system that desperately needs to be overthrown. Right? The ANC has gone past its sell-by date, as far as I am concerned, and the system that continues to protect and preserve the interest of the oppressors and the exploiters, that system has to be destroyed. I do have some profound concerns. One of the most important being that whenever I hear Malema speak these days, he always seems to have to champion the cause of the LGBT faction. And that worries me, because I see that as another force of infiltrating our culture, our spiritual values as a people. I see it as a potentially very, very serious problem, because it is one of the main agenda items of the global white supremacists who want to impose their will and their culture upon us as African people. And I see it as potentially destructive. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not one of these people who feel that we should advocate prosecuting or persecuting our people who regard themselves to be LGBT. That's not what I'm promoting here. But what I am saying is that when our oppressors want to impose that way of life or impose upon us conditions whereby we must accept their position on the issues of LGBT, then we have a serious problem. I see that as antithetical to our culture as African people. I see that as us normalizing potentially a psycho-emotional disorder. I see us normalizing something that our young people, on the basis that society has normalized it, our young people will start experimenting with the ideas simply because society accepts it and promotes it as normal. The whole idea of two people of the same sex or two people of the same gender being married is alien to everything I understand to be African culture, African sensibilities, African connection with the laws of nature. And again, I say, I'm not an advocate of persecuting or prosecuting people who consider themselves to be LGBT. And insofar as the EFF seems to be defending and promoting the acceptance of LGBT, that concerns me a great deal.
Oh, sorry, Brother Leader. I've just got a message from Auntie Affiong saying that her battery is now 1%. So I'm going to give Auntie Affiong a last word. Well, let me, because she said she's going to hang on till it cuts out, but if it's at 1%, that's probably going to be soon. So, Auntie, let me give you a last word.
I've really enjoyed today, and there's just so much work to be done, so much. I'll probably speak to you later on, Shakara, and I mean, I'll probably as time goes on, update folks on what's happening, here in Nigeria. But there's a lot of stuff, happening, and as you know, the struggle is always there, and the work remains outstanding, so to speak. And neocolonialism is real. It's really real. So just to say that we all in our different ways and on our different levels, we still need to be very involved, and involved is beyond just discussing things, there's so much to be done. And the forces of liberalism are really digging deeper into the continent, it's getting even worse, and they use things like religion and ethnicism to blur the reality of the masses. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of work to do, and imperialism doesn't sleep. They operate 42 hours a day, not 24.
That's right.
So we really need to really personalize all of these things, that it goes beyond discussions. It goes beyond analysis. Yes. One way or the other. So, but and just to thank you, Empress, Kushti and Shakara, for facilitating this, because a lot of people will get to listen to this, both now and later, and that's also, and you're consistent in that, and I just really want to thank you and appreciate you, for that. And we need to expand it, we need to escalate it. We're in a state of war, but unfortunately, Africans don't know that, and literally Africans are waiting for the rapture, for Jesus to come back. Literally, that's how and it's not a funny thing. It's not a funny thing. Our psyches have been so destroyed that we can't see anything else. That the problem is so overwhelming that Jesus will come and take this away, and it's not a joke, and it's not and one thing most of us don't know is that the Muslims are also waiting for the Messiah. The Muslims also believe in rapture. They're also waiting for the Messiah to come back. So I'm saying that our people are trapped, that we are locked down in this. So when our people think of, so who is going to come and save us? How will we get out of this? They don't think of struggle. They think the Messiah will come and lift them up. And oh my gosh, it is so graphic. It's so real. But I'm saying this to say that this is our medicine. That's where we've hidden ourselves. The pain is so much. In Lagos, for example, there's no traffic anymore like before, because the cars are off the road, because the fuel is so expensive, and yet we produce petroleum in this country. So look at that contradiction. But anyway, so there's a struggle, to be had. There's work to be done. And let everybody just bear that in mind, and let everybody, be clear in their minds as to what their own work will be. So thank you very much, Empress Kay and Brother Shakara, and my brother Mbandaka. You're consistent, holding up the flag for how many decades? Thank you for that. And we'll up later.
Yes, Auntie. Well, let me say this to you, Auntie. This platform is yours. Yeah. Whenever you feel like you have something that you want to share, get in contact with me, and I will make something happen. Yeah. You have that privilege. Yeah. So that, and I mean that 100%. Right.
And let me say, Sister Afyong, I feel so blessed to be in this virtual space with you this evening. I haven't heard that lovely voice for such a long time. And just thank you very much for your depth of analysis, your insight, your clear understanding of our people's cause, and most importantly, it's your dedication and your commitment.
100%.
There's an energy that comes with your message, sister, that speaks to the work that you are doing, that you are not just a theoretician, but you are a worker whose theory is based upon what you experience through the work that you do. And for that, I profoundly appreciate the knowledge and wisdom that you impart to us. Tendai Mari.
And don't worry.
Thank you.
All right, Auntie. Feel free to stay for as long as the 1% will allow you.
Okay, then. Right. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Listen.
All
right. Imhotep, you had a second question. That was only your first question, Lord of mercy.
Yeah.
Before, because I know my auntie and my father, So you know what I mean. You're not gonna get the short answer from them, So yes, that's you know what I mean. So yeah.
I tried to choose the best one, the most worthwhile ones, All right. So the second one might be a little bit shorter, hopefully.
Yes.
Does anyone on the panel, yourself included, and everybody who's jumped in, know whether Mali and Burkina Faso are still contemplating joining the countries into one? And I asked that in the context of what I heard was the alliance of Sahel states, where they've come together in a defensive negotiations. If any of them is attacked, all of them will come. So I'm saying Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have entered into a defensive agreement where if one of them is attacked, all of them will come to defend each other. And I remember, Brother Shakara, you were speaking earlier about Mali and Burkina Faso having contemplated joining their countries before. I don't have a reliable link to continental African news, so I can't be certain that any news that I'm getting in the English-speaking world is true. But I heard it as well myself, so I wanted to know if anybody on the panel was aware of that still happening or in any works.
Should Sister Afyong go first, because she might
go ahead, Afyong, if you have a word on this. You're on mute, Auntie, if you're speaking. Okay, we're not hearing from Auntie at the moment, brother leader. So go ahead.
Yeah, repeat the question for me.
Are you aware if Mali and Burkina Faso are still contemplating collapsing the colonial border and forming one nation? There was talk of this in September last year, and there was also a march from Bamako to Ouagadougou, I believe, that of some people, like ordinary people, who were marching in support of that particular suggestion. So I'm not yet. Brother Imhotep, is asking if you've heard anything more from that time till now. Okay, Auntie Afyong has dropped off.
Yeah.
All right. So we give that to Auntie Afyong. Go ahead, brother leader.
Yeah, Tenai Mwari. No, I haven't heard a great deal more. I do know that Brother Tambela, the Prime Minister of Burkina Faso, who, as I said earlier on, to the best of my understanding, and I'm still trying to find out more about him, but to the best of my understanding, is a Pan-Africanist who has consistently for decades defended and promoted the name and the legacy of Baba Thomas Sankara. And my understanding is that he is the energy behind this, that he has traveled to Mali, to Niger, those two countries in particular, and he is all for this this union of states. Beyond that, I can't offer much by way of confirming progress in this regard. I can only say that if the people who are leading the coup, if they are authentic, and I'm not yet convinced that they all are, as I said earlier on, I think Burkina Faso presently is the only one that gives me some imbues me with some sense of hope. And that's because I sense that there are some genuine Pan-African elements among them, including the Minister of State who spoke at the 78th General Assembly of the United Nations about a month ago, and his name is Basoma Bazi, and he spoke powerfully, and he sounded authentic, and that's the most I can say on this. So I do hope we do need to unite across the African continent. We need a union of African states. I'm a strong advocate of that. One government, one economy, one currency, one single currency, one continental army, one union bank for the entire African continent. All of the ideas that were espoused by the Osajifo Kwame Nkrumah is what we need to unite Africa and make Africa the #1 superpower in the world, which was the vision of the Osajifo Kwame Nkrumah, which was inspired by the vision of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey. And that's what we must all push and work tirelessly for. Tendai Mwari.
All right, brothers and sisters, we've got to put a limit on this. So I'm going to put a 15-minute time limit on the rest of the discussion. Is that cool with you, Kushti and brother leader?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you gonna oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, you're gonna ask the Russian question as well?
Yeah, I'm covering that shortly. I'm gonna get Marcus Overton, and then we're gonna get to Russia. All right. Thank you for that, Kushti, for that reminder. Marcus.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, my brother.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Shakara. I'm a fan of yours. I'm friends with you on Facebook, and I look at a lot of your stuff.
Yes, I do recognize the name. Give thanks.
Yeah, you're also in my group, ADOS at FBA. They're an online self-hate group. You're moderating that group. I just like to say, thank you for this discussion. And it's not only that France needs to go, but all Europe, anybody that can't call themselves an African, they need to leave the continent now. They've just been disrupting things, disrupting our culture, life, displacing us throughout this world. What we need to do is kick them all out, especially in northern Africa, where the Arabs are at. Kick them all out. Everybody that's in the African diaspora needs to just come home and just form ourselves as one world superpower. And what we also need to be doing, and I hear we're connecting out to the African French nations. We also need to connect to the Afro-Latino, because they are a very huge population, like in Brazil and throughout South and Central America. And what I like with Wale Mali from Ghana, the young brother that's going does the videos of Africa. He's now in Brazil.
Wademaya.
Yeah, Walamaya. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's in Suriname now. I think he moved from Brazil. He's been in Suriname, but yeah, I take your point.
Yeah, he's going around the world. He's going to wherever his people is out at and is connecting. And I think we need to do that all as Pan-Africanists, so we can stop a lot of this. What I see, especially here in the States, mostly online, is this xenophobia that is going on, because that needs to be destroyed. Once that is destroyed and we get the young generation of children, in 20 years, you'll see all this change around, and you'll see a more unified Pan-Africanist of Africans around the world. That's the only way that's gonna put a stop to a lot what's going on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, brother Marcus. Much appreciated, and stay listening. All right, I appreciate your energies, truly.
I appreciate you for having me on. It's an honor just to talk with fellow Africans from around the world, here from the States.
Give thanks. All right, what I'm gonna do now, because I did say 15 minutes here, so I'm gonna remove all everybody from the panel apart from Empress gotkushTV and Brother Leader, so we can wrap up the show. Okay. So I'm giving thanks to Bunya, giving thanks to Imhotep, and giving thanks to Marcus Overton for coming through. But yeah, we're gonna go to the close of the show. But thank you very much, yeah, for you both for coming through. We appreciate it. Truly. All right. But feel free to listen from backstage. Once I have done so. Okay. So Brother Leader, and Empress gotkushTV, feel free to jump in if there's an aspect to this that you want to specifically relate. But we haven't discussed Russia yet. All right. And Russia is an essential component, yeah, of this dynamic. And yeah, just some general. Now we know, for example, Brother Kemi Seba, when he was here, he spoke about the fact that there are many people who are coming out, like ordinary people now, who are coming out to demonstrate against France, but carrying Russian flags. Yeah, and he was speaking to how, you know, we're not to do them thing there. We have to carry our red, black, and green flag. All right, you know what I'm saying. But there seems to be a lot of Russia support, not just at the governmental level, but among the level of the people. Yeah, at this moment in time. And then we're hearing that Ibrahim Traore has signed some agreement, yeah, with Russia to build a power plant. I believe it is, Empress gotkushTV.
Yeah.
Yeah, a power plant. And is there anything that I'm missing out?
In regards to Russia, I think it's the acquisition of Wagner as well.
Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
As you said on the last stream, for military resources, and the fact that they have also gone apart from Wagner, because quote unquote supposed to be its own entity. I do that in quotes. They have gone towards, like you said, there is a difference to. They have asked for military help from Russia, as well as funds as well. And yeah, the building of a new nuclear plant as well. That's correct. Yeah.
So yeah, Brother Leader, just give us a perspective on those dynamics: Wagner, building of plant, military presence, etc.
Well, Tendai Mari, first and foremost, the Wagner Group is a corporation. It's a business. They sell their skills, their military skills, for money. There's nothing ideological about that, except they are Russians, and they believe in Russian imperialism and Russian supremacy. And as African people, we must understand that if our fate is in the hands of any external force, then we are doomed to potential destruction. We become dependent upon them for our liberation. That is not a healthy state of being, not a healthy place to be in. Now, that's not to say.
Sorry, brother, not to cut you, but in your answer, let's include this dynamic as well, because we did discuss this briefly on the last show, yeah, and I meant to ask this earlier, so forgive me. But Auntie Afrika spoke about understanding the material circumstances, yeah, and there is a serious question as to, like, when we talk about the military takeover, what other institution or body would have been capable of seizing power to challenge neocolonialism, if that makes sense, but the army at this particular moment in time, in these material circumstances, yeah. And the issue is that our militaries are generally, because of the purpose for which they've served up until now, are generally under-resourced as regards to defense, yeah, defense of a nation, especially when it comes to dealing with the French and the Americans, yeah. And so the question then becomes, where would we acquire in a short space of time as well, like factoring in there is not time to build a state-of-the-art, up-to-date military arsenal. Where would we acquire such resources without an engagement with a nation like Russia or an institution like Wagner, and so on? These are just difficult questions, right, that we have to answer in terms of material circumstances as it stands right about now. So if you just factor those things into your... Sorry, go ahead, kushTV.
I'll just add on that, as well as we know that they also had an issue with the Islamic attacks as well. Right. So they'd be quite depleted there, and we know that ECOWAS will not support them in regards to foot on the ground soldiers as well.
Yes, Tendai Mwari, I was going to go on to say that what I've said before is not to negate the idea of strategic engagement with external forces. Right. There may be a cause for strategic engagement with external forces. But when we become ideologically dependent, emotionally dependent, or we exercise total faith in them, then we have a problem. That's the point I'm making. Mm-hmm. To be in a position where we cannot find within ourselves and among ourselves the wherewithal to defend ourselves is a weak position to be in, regardless of what friends we think we have in the world. Even if Russia was genuinely our friend, it is not a healthy position to be in. Baba John Henrik Clarke, the great warrior scholar, says, we have never made a decent alliance in history. If you want a friend, look in the mirror. So again, I'm not saying that we can't strategically engage with outside forces in pursuit of our own interests. However, we have to always remind ourselves that these forces, these powerful forces, have their own interest. And as they say, there are no permanent friends in politics, only permanent interests. So that if Russia decides to engage strategically with us or to support us, it is because they have a strategic interest themselves. It is in their interest so to do. When it does not suit them, then they drop us like a ton of bricks. Take, for instance, the invasion of Libya. I'm not a fan. I was never a fan of Gaddafi. Many Pan-Africanists are. I was not. And I remain not a fan of Gaddafi. I am clear that Gaddafi was not a Pan-Africanist, that he was an Arab expansionist. I will not put flesh on that bones in this discussion because there isn't time. But suffice to say, I was not a fan of Gaddafi. I don't even think Gaddafi really respected African people. It might shock some of you, me saying that. However, the invasion of Libya and the overthrow of Gaddafi, I was totally opposed to it. Why? Because it was the breach of an African territory. The territorial integrity of the African continent was violated. And for that reason, I was totally opposed that that NATO, led by France, backed up by America, was able to do that against the express will of the African Union. But that's the weak position that we're in as a people. Now let's look at China and what China has done for itself over the last several decades, relying on itself. China even broke away from Russia because China realized that even though there was an ideological conflict between the Soviet Union, led by Russia, and Western Europe and America, China realized that there was an organic bond, a link between those two forces, those two elements, those two factions. And China pulled itself away from Russia.
Well, to be fair, there were always tensions between them. In Malcolm X, Message to the Grassroots, he speaks about the fact that the Russian Revolution was white nationalism, and he said, if you don't think it is, why you think that Mao and Khrushchev can't get their heads together?
Absolutely, and thanks for that interjection, because it's a classic example, and also factor in George Padmore. Padmore, who was so inspired by the Russian Revolution, he ended up living in Russia and raising and elevating himself amongst the ranks, became a personal advisor to Stalin. And yet when World War II broke out and Russia was in alliance with the United States and Western Europe, and Stalin told George Padmore to ease up on his campaign against the Western imperialists, and that caused a massive conflict between Stalin and George Padmore, that George Padmore to run out of Russia. And George Padmore wrote a book entitled Pan-Africanism or Communism, showing the contradictions, because he experienced it. This is a man that rose to the position of a colonel in the Red Army, right? An international organizer for the Russian Revolution, right? And yet found that when push come to shove, our interest as African people was in conflict with the Russian interests. Give you another example. When NATO invaded, before NATO invaded Libya, the Security Council voted on it, the UN Security Council. What did Russia do? And China? They abstained. They had the power to veto that invasion. And even though the African Union, representing the entire African continent, had voted against the invasion, Russia and China sat on their hands when the voting came. They sat on their hands. They could have, any one of them voting against it, it means that NATO could not have gone in. So what they did was they gave NATO the amber light. So NATO could go in and invade an African country. Couldn't rely on them. So we can't even rely on them to raise their hand. When it doesn't suit their interest. Remember the point I'm making here now? It's about interests. It did not suit their interest to raise their hands, so they didn't raise their hands. What then can we really trust them to do for us if it does not suit their interest? What can we really, what sacrifices do we expect that they will make on our behalf? I'll give us that to think about.
Tell them where I give you facts, Brother Leader. We're coming to the close.
Just raise your hand. Just raise your hand.
That's it.
Veto thing. They wouldn't do that.
Right. Brother Leader, we're gonna have to close it there. There's so much more, to get into around this issue, as I'm sure you're aware. But no doubt we'll have more time and discussion, on this topic So yeah, giving thanks for your contributions to the discourse. Yeah. We'll let you go now and rest for the evening. All right, but giving thanks, and I'm sure I'll just hand over to Kushti to say a word to you if she wants to.
Yeah, so I'm give thanks for all of the knowledge given today. You did mention before that you hope that I didn't feel that my points were getting punched down, and I don't. I was having a little banter with Shakara, but in general, it's important that we have a straightforward conversation and to have a no-nonsense conversation about this and to have a direct answer. So it's important to have these kind of discussions. So I was looking forward to having this. So yeah, this was brilliant. So thank you for that.
Yeah, Tendai Mari.
All right, Robert, have a good evening. Tendai Mari.
Yeah, just let me give thanks to the Creator and the ancestors for blessing us with this reasoning this evening, and just to say to Sister Kush, give thanks for being so gracious, and just to say I am still hoping that your optimism proves to be valid. Because that would be in our interest. I'm still hoping. So I don't mind if history from here on proves everything I said this evening wrong. I want to be proven wrong. So thank you for what you brought to the discussion, because it's very, very important. The studying that you're doing, please continue to do it, and please continue to spread your analysis to give our people something, food to think about. Yeah. And to you, Shakara, you are just a blessing to me, a blessing to our family, a blessing to our movement, a blessing to our people. You love our people, and you are determined in this fight for our people's liberation. And for that, we love you and we respect you. And may the Creator and the ancestors continue to strengthen you in this work.
Tendai Ashe, give me thanks,
Tendai Mari.
Tendai Mari. Bless it.
All right, kings and queens, serious business this evening. We've had a lot. It was a roller coaster. A lot of issues went into. There's more issues to go into. Sister Kushti, what's your review of the evening proceeding?
Well, first of all, now I see where you get it from. Okay. Okay, let's just put that out there. Yeah. I'm still smiling after that. So yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a great take. I know it sounds crazy, but I still keep my optimism. I don't think it's necessarily bashed it at all. I think if anything, it's just kept us being cautious, this is the blessings of having elders with such knowledge. I was saying to Auntie Aflong that about knowledge, and then she rightfully said that it's not about age, but what I kind of meant is that when you have elders like you had on a panel who've actually been through certain pinnacle parts of our history, they've been around when they felt the essence of something, something you can't really necessarily put into words, and they understand things, so they can kind of tell you if this is that, and that's something that you can't get, unless you've kind of been through it. So there's a lot of knowledge there that they've given us, and things to look at as well. So when when all of us are looking into it, there's things to look out for now, and that's priceless, because that stops you from going down the wrong path. They've done all the hard work, so you don't have to. Do you know what I mean? They're steering you. So yeah, it's just hopefully we'll be able to, as you said you're going to do, is just throughout the time we can just keep updated on this and have more to talk about, because as you can see, there was loads more questions that we could have asked as well. But I do think the fundamental questions at the moment did get asked. So yeah. It really just strengthened my optimism, really. I'm big and bold as everyone's off the panel. I say that
100%. Well, you know what? Go on.
I'll just say things like, like for example, when I mentioned when they were talking back on the in Nigeria and uranium getting sold at market price. And Auntie Aflong quite rightly said, you know, look at Nigeria, for example, that they create this petroleum, but they're dealing with a lack of it, or the fact that they could be saying that it's at a certain price, but do we know it's that? That gives me again, that gives me potholes to look out for. But but that's not actually happening yet. What is actually happening yet is they are actually doing those sales. So that leaves the optimism in me to almost see it realistically, to know what to look for now, right? So to be realistic into what to look for, but to be optimistically realistic in my way. So to me, it hasn't really, and there's a lot of things like that, you know, like when they were saying about the gathering of people and what that was like with Thomas Sankara. And I think they mentioned and again, a lot of the youth and the people are enlisting, and that's happening. And we've just got to look at what they're doing with the infrastructure, like what Brother Sekou and Brother Dakar and Auntie Aflong said. You just got to look at what they're going to do with these new things, because they all did say that, yeah, this is good. And even if it's a bit of something good, this is still something. So I'll take that and keep monitoring with that, you know. Meanwhile, we'll always have our leaders to bring us down to earth when necessary. So I don't worry about that, you know.
Of course. Well, most importantly, I want to thank you first and foremost for taking the initiative, to put something together to teach others about what is going on. It's entirely important, and that's what prompted me to invite you to come and co-host our last 2 sessions and to present on the previous session, because I just think that's important. And it's not a small feat that somebody takes the initiative to do something like that. Do you know what I'm saying? As somebody who does do things like that, I know what it takes. And so I appreciate you for that, and also for coming and to co-host today and to declare yourself an optimist and ask the challenging questions and receive the challenging answers. This is important. Like I said, even me, I was always cautiously optimistic, but I wasn't in the space that Brother Sekou and Brother Leader was, at a point, right? I wasn't exactly in that space, even with my caution. I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't optimistic. Like I was just like, you know what? I see where I go on, but I'm just waiting, Whereas Brother Leader and Brother Sekou were ready to make judgments, right? You know and I just wasn't, right? You know what I mean? But I heard them and I listened to them, and I went to do more study, and I found out that a lot of what they were saying was correct, and that's how we all learn and grow, right? Do you know
Absolutely.
And that is the most important thing, That what we've had today is a masterclass, simple as you take it, in political education. And through the process of political education, some of our ideas are going to be challenged at certain points. That's just what it is. And all of us are susceptible, especially for those who want to see good for our people. We're susceptible, we want some wins, all right. You know what I'm saying? So we're susceptible to all certain things, and you know what I'm saying. And like you said, we need people to just bring us back to earth sometimes. You know what I'm saying? And even if it doesn't change our perspectives, it gives us more perspective, if that makes sense. It gives us more things to consider. I want to close. Do you have anything to say, Sister Kushti?
I was going to say definitely that any optimism, boy, got dashed in the hot pepper soup tonight, boy, for real. I think at one point you asked Brother Sekou, anything, you want to say anything on that? Brother Sekou said, nothing that was listed there moves me.
You know what? The thing about hot pepper soup is that it's good for you. It cleanses.
Exactly. It's tasty. You still come back for more. Do you know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah. You know.
Don't worry. I'll try and gather up some evidence to see if it moves them.
100%. No, we're all looking for it. We're all looking for it. But no doubt we'll have you back on gotkushTV again, Empress Kushti, and I know you'll be listening in. So
Love, bro.
and watching it
Definitely.
consistently. So yeah, we'll have you back at some point, and know that we're gonna continue to learn and grow together. All right.
All right.
So
Take
yeah,
care.
much appreciated. I'm gonna close on the words of Baba America Cabral. I'm closing on this because after I spoke to my father, and he shot whatever optimism I may have had to pieces. I concluded the conversation with this quotation. Well, this word from Baba Amilcar Cabral, because the conversation, this is what it brought to mind. Yeah. And he says, hide nothing from the masses of our people. Hide nothing from the masses of our people. Tell no lies, he says. Tell no lies. Expose lies wherever they are told. Mask no difficulties, mistakes, failures. Claim no easy victories. I'll read it again. Hide nothing from the masses of the people. Tell no lies. Expose lies wherever they are told. Mask no difficulties, mistakes, failures. Claim no easy victories. The most important aspect of this for today's conversation is to mask no difficulties, mistakes, or failures. Mask no difficulties, mistakes, or failures, and claim no easy victories. Yeah. And so if we use the framework that Auntie Affion outlined for us, yeah, a rebellion might be a step in the right direction, but we do not want to put ourselves in the position of claiming it as an easy victory. Yeah. In other words, to whatever extent it's a step in the right direction, there's still more work to be done. We can claim no easy victories. This work is hard work. It's difficult work. And so I hope that at the very least, our panel has contextualized that for us. Yeah. And I hope that ones have learned something from the conversation. And as has been said, no doubt we're going to come back to this topic at some point soon. Stay tuned for our programming for the month of November. I am planning a session with the National Joint Action Committee out of Trinidad to come and speak to us about the Black nationalist Pan-Africanist history of Trinidad. And so we will be hosting that. I am also planning a session looking at the nation of Togo, an African nation that we often don't hear about in Pan-African discourse and in the media in general. Yeah. But we're going to be looking at the liberation fight and activism taking place in Togo, and we're just going to have a few sessions of traditional Zivanai on a Jima Tuesday evening where Shakara just raises a topic and everybody can come and have an open house as well. We've had a lot of pre-planned programming this month for Black History Month, but the next week we're going to engage in a more loose conversation where brothers and sisters can have an open house, come and raise your points. You may have some reflections on some of the previous shows that you want to share and so on and so forth. Okay. So do stay tuned for all of that. And there's more things coming, but I will save those announcements for another day. I would encourage ones to support gotkushTV by clicking the Patreon link in the description to the video. If you would like to make a financial contribution, either one-off or on a monthly basis, please check out the Patreon. I'm in the process of updating the Patreon, and so there will be at least some perks. And for those who wish to watch and take in any of the presentations that were delivered through Sankofa, the Future of Black History. On one of the tiers, you will have access to all four of those presentations, all right, at some point soon. And we're going to have a tier whereby, well, every tier will grant you some kind of a discount to future events of gotkushTV as well. And there'll be more exclusive content coming in the not too distant future. But any of your contributions will go towards the maintenance of the channel, the purchasing of new equipment that will enable us to produce some of the shows that we were producing in previous years at a higher level. Okay, so I'm just letting you know that from now. So once again, check out the Patreon link in the description and become one of our Patreons. You know what I'm saying, just for the love, yeah, if you want to support the growth of gotkushTV. We are planning, yes, to become a significant Pan-African revolutionary media platform. That is the aim. We know, come around here just for have random conversation, yeah, you know, aimless conversation. We need to master the media of our time and present knowledge and information to our people that speaks to our political, economic, cultural, spiritual, and social empowerment, upliftment, and liberation. And so that is what we are aiming to do here at gotkushTV. And as we grow, we want you to grow with us and follow us in this work. All right. Tenda Mwari, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Kudzai Muzimu Mukulu. Give praises unto our great ancestors. Bibi Tumi, Bibi Fahodie, African power and African liberation for all African people. Share.
Fire burn them dirty king, blaze up them dirty king, fire burn them king, send him disastrous, and time he fast with us, ancestors walk with us, fire burn them king.
Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama. Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama. Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama. Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama. Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre,